Hello, good evening, and welcome once again back to Mr. Sensible Live. Hope you're all doing well. Got a lot of people here in the chat already. As ever, Colon plays. And Colon, I did read that comment about my head. It's not too shiny, is it? You're going to be out of a job if you carry on like that. Lots of other people. Crafty Keeler, Glober Mom, Kiri Mac just jumping in here. Pipe Harrod, Tatty Bogle, all the usual crowd. Joseph Grant, Chris Durham Music Channel will be back later, I saw. Micro Raptor, Adam L. Fred Bailey, good evening to all of you. Farmer's Boy Dartman, Black Hole Ball, and just scrolling back a bit, Bill Devitt. Anyway, I'm sure I've missed people. I've just gone skipping on through. I had been chatting with a flat earther called Kyle Adams. Kyle Adams has got a channel, and the link is in the description now because I've updated it, and we will post it from time to time in the side chat for anyone who wants to go and have a look at his channel. There was a little bit of doubt as to whether Kyle would be able to make it because time zones are not exactly conducive for chats between the two of us, but he has arrived, and he's sat there in the green room. I can see him now, the live waiting room. And so we will be having a chat and discussion about flat Earth, not a formal debate. We haven't got anything like that organised. So it's going to be a polite chat. That doesn't mean I won't challenge him. It doesn't mean I'm going to agree with everything he says. But we're going to keep it nice, keep it polite, and be interested to find out what he believes, why he believes it, and what evidence he has for it. And I'm assuming. Let me just switch the sound on for a second. Yeah, I had the sound working from the top of the show. Booyah! Yeah, professional here. Definitely professional. News right now. I've been working this week, although from... which one? From Friday night, I'm going to be off for 2 weeks. So I should be able to do quite a bit of stuff, which I'm looking forward to. And, of course, let me switch this on. And, of course, it is now 9 days to the reveal of the secret project, and I've seen people asking about it from time to time in my community, patrons even. I'm afraid I haven't even been able to tell them. It's been kept tightly under wraps. The excitement is building, at least here it is, and I hope it is with you guys. There's not really much I can say for it of it. The video announcement is all shot. It will be a live stream on Friday 31st at 2100 UTC. Sorry, premiere, not live stream, but it will be followed by a live stream pretty much straight after it, where we can chat about it. Okay, which will be really, really good. To finally got it out in the open will be so exciting. Yeah. So I hope that you're all looking forward to it. I hope you're all going to be there. It's going to be fun. The idea is to try and prove or disprove flat Earth stroke globe. Obviously, I think it's going to prove, if anything, the globe. However, it's possible the result will be indecisive. We shall see, but that's what I'm hoping for. And the experiment, I hope, is done in a way that removes a lot of possible arguments. It was when I thought of the idea of how to do this that I first started looking into it, because I wasn't sure that someone like me could do it. Interesting. Right. Well, I'll tell you what, because, as I said, Kyle and myself, we're at awkward time zones, I'm going to bring Kyle in pretty much straight away so we can get on and chat to maximise the time. Because he said he's all right for time, but I don't want to lose time chatting with you guys when we could be chatting with Kyle and finding out a bit about him. I don't know if a link to his channel has got in the side chat yet, but we'll definitely drop that in there a couple times so that Kyle, to give a shout out to Kyle. He's done a decent thing by coming to the channel. He's trusting that I'll treat him fairly, and I want to and will do so. So let's make sure I'm ready with the sound as well. Oh, what did I do there? Oh, I clicked a... No, I don't think I've done any harm. Let's switch on the sound for him and bring him in to the channel. Hello, good evening, Kyle. I see your mic's muted, but are you ready to go? Because you are live. I hope he hasn't just run off to get himself a drink or something. I might have to bring him back in a minute. Hello, Kyle. Okay, we're gonna. I'll bring him. Oh, hello, Kyle. Are you there? Hello. You're unmuted, but I can't hear you. Oh, he's muted again. What I'll do is I'll pop him back into the waiting room, and perhaps Colon, you can drop me a DM when he's ready, or I'll just try again in a few minutes' time. Perhaps he had to run off and grab a drink or something. Okay, so I don't know if we've got. Let's see. Yeah, Kyle Adams. I did a video about him. In his channel, he's got lots of flat Earth science lessons, and he. I don't know what the word is. Advertises himself, positions himself as the. I'm not trying to be rude. I don't know the best way to put it, but as the Flat Earth Institute of Science. And looking through some of the lessons, there are things such as curved horizons, question mark, boats on the horizon, scrunched horizons, lake Pontchartrain, sunlit mountain tops, dawn. I've looked at some of these, but not all of these. How far away is the sun? Bounced shadows. I think that was something that I covered. Yeah, so all sorts of things regarding flat and globe Earth. So I think I'll ask him what his best evidences are for flat Earth, and we'll take it from there. I think he's unmuted. I'm going to try him again and see if he's ready to go. Hello, Kyle. Hello, Kyle. Oh, let me try that again. I think that might be my fault, actually. Hello, Kyle.
Hello.
Ah, got you. Sorry, it was me. I was muted. Hello, good evening, or good afternoon, or good morning even to you. What sort of time of day is it where you are?
It's 2:30 right now for me.
Okay. I presume that's early afternoon, not first thing in the morning.
Yeah, it's 2:30 in the afternoon.
Okay, so it's livable. Right, I tried to give you a bit of an intro, and I tried to be as fair. I said that you're a flat earther. You've got flat Earth science lessons on your website. I didn't know quite how to describe it, but you position yourself as Flat Earth Institute of Science.
That's right.
Yep. So I think probably the best thing to do is to let you have some time to tell us about yourself as much as you want to, what you believe, where you come from, and, as in your beliefs, and so on. So if I give you the mic, the floor is yours for a while, and then we'll take it from there, shall we?
Yeah, you can feel free to ask me questions and kind of explore where you want to explore on that.
Yeah, but I thought if you introduce yourself first and cover a few things, and then perhaps we'll pick some areas to talk about. Okay. Cool. Go.
Do you want my video on or anything?
No, I can't. Well, I can't take videos from it. I can play bits of one of your videos, although you'll see it with about a 30-second delay.
You want my webcam on is what I'm saying.
Oh, I see. No, there's no webcam on this. We could have.
Okay, so it's just a radio thing?
Yeah, it's just voice only. I mean, we can organise that sometime, but I need to set up, in effect, like a Google Meets type.
Totally fine.
We can do that some other time. I'm happy to do that. But okay, just tell us a bit about yourself, your flat Earth beliefs and evidence and so on.
All right. We're all live right now.
We're
all live right now.
You are live right now. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. So I'm Flat Earth Kyle, and I'm the professor here at the Flat Earth Institute of Science. And you can just go with the dictionary. I just go off of the dictionary definitions, and you want to ask me questions about that. That's what I do. I just point them to the dictionary, and recite that to them. I've been doing this for a number of years now, at least studying into it, and I really got into the YouTube channel end of it after I just started having the same conversations over and over and over again with different people. So I'm like, I'm just going to make one YouTube video and just post that, and so I don't have to repeat myself all the time. And it's kind of unfolded from there. So I wanted to go as systematically as possible. I like to build off of a foundation and just take one little piece and then build it off of another. And the more simple I can start off with at the beginning, the better and stronger my case is going to be in the very end. And so I try to go with as many things and try to find as many places that I agree with other people, and try to build bridges more than I do throw rocks at other people. And does that make sense? There's a lot of other flat earthers who are all about just throwing rocks at people and their beliefs, and I'm really trying to differentiate myself in that way, as just trying to focus on the science of it. Okay, let's try to really grasp a good understanding of one topic, and then go on to the next topic, and so on and so forth. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand. So you're not looking to be confrontational, but to talk at a scientific or evidential type level.
Yeah.
Okay. And actually, I really do respect that. I really do. So what are your general beliefs? Because I know flat earthers come from all sorts of belief backgrounds with regard to flat earth. Does it go on forever? Has it got an edge? Is there a dome? Where's the sun? How far? And so on. What's your general sort of setup, your model of the flat earth then?
All right. Well, mine really has a lot of evidence built around the firmament. There's so many things that go with having a firmament over our heads that just makes sense. I don't know how to explain it otherwise without the firmament. And so that's really where mine kind of comes from. Does that make sense?
Right. So well, let's start with the Earth itself. Obviously, you think it's flat, but do you think it's a disc of a certain size with an edge, or do you go hold the idea that it basically goes on pretty much forever?
All right. I'm not an infinite plane flat earther, although I don't claim to know exactly where the firmament touches the ground. And so, does it touch the ground in Antarctica? It could. Does it touch the ground out past Antarctica in some other land out there? It could. I don't know. And so there's a lot of, and so I'm a really okay with stating the I don't knows, because there's a lot of things I don't know the answer to, and that's I work with that.
So you, from what you said there about firmament touching at Antarctica or elsewhere, you think that the firmament is a physical thing, a dome or other shape, but a physical barrier or object.
Yeah. When I shared my video, I've got a whole series of videos about the firmament there, and I really like when I shared a video of the nuclear bombs going off, Operation Fishbowl, and you watch them slamming into the firmament. That looks like a physical object to me.
I have seen those, not your video with whatever you said about it, but I have seen.
Oh, there's a lot. There's a good number.
I have seen fishbowl videos before. I appreciate what you're saying, but to me, it just looks like it's almost like reflection or light distortions from different layers of the atmosphere. But I will be honest and say I've not looked into that very far at all. I would come from a position that I would say there is no evidence at all for any form of firmament. Can we call it dome just to make it easier? I don't want to put words into your mouth, but are you okay to go with dome?
You can. I'm totally fine with dome.
Okay.
It works.
All right. So I don't think there's any evidence at all for anything physical like a dome, because there are it's never been physically seen. It doesn't appear on radar or any other sensing equipment.
Okay, so you actually get that a lot. We get a lot of people who really feel that way. That's just because they've never heard of any evidence for it before. And so that's one unique thing about my channel, is I really try to focus on all of the evidence. What is there supporting this whole thing? And so I talked about the actual, you can watch the nuclear explosions, and I go into this ring effect of what happens when you take a water balloon, for example, and you throw that water balloon against a wall, and you get this ring effect that happens to the water balloon as it hits the wall. And then I focused on, in my video, about that same ring effect that we see with the explosion of the nuclear bomb going against the firmament or the dome. you see that same ring effect, and
Okay.
I think that's pretty strong evidence right there.
Well, as I said, I've not really looked into that video of the fishbowl stuff or the nuclear explosions to any extent. But if, and I can sort of half remember seeing something a bit like what you're talking about. But let's assume for a second there is some sort of ring effect. You're just implying because there's a ring effect there, it must be like a ring effect from a water balloon or whatever. That's just because it's something that looks similar doesn't mean it is similar. Because also, I would say then, do you accept that we have gone into orbit? Do you accept we've left orbit and gone as far as the moon? Do you accept we've sent probes to the planets?
I don't believe we've ever landed on the moon before. There's a I don't really get into to all of that. I let all the flat earthers do that because I'm not about throwing rocks again here. I just kind of say, all right, well, I'm just going to focus on the things that I do understand, and the focus on my own beliefs and my own understanding of things rather than other people's. And so,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, let's take it a bit close to home then. Just to quickly say about the moon, I would say there's extremely strong evidence, apart from all the photographs and films of the actual landings. Probes have gone round and filmed the landing sites, which match the original imagery from the moon landing times. Plus, of course, we bounced lasers off the reflecting mirror that they left on the moon. But let's move back to something more.
Sure, I probably should talk about that in some of my videos because there are a lot of people who have a lot of questions. But that you got this big, huge foundation that is built on NASA and government claims and all these other people. And with me, I just don't have that same foundation. I haven't. I'd like to build it. If I could build it, I'd build it there. But I just
Well, why don't we go back to something more, as I said, back home. Something as easy to see as ships disappearing over the horizon bottom up, or the sun setting, something like that.
I've got a lot of videos about that. I'd love to talk. That one is one that I covered early. So yeah, feel free. Let's talk about that.
Okay. So how would you explain ships disappearing over the horizon bottom up? Then, what's your explanation?
Refraction. So my big thing that I spend a lot of time doing this. So in my series, I've got a whole course here. I start off with observations of the horizon on the x-axis, and that's all of lesson 1. And then all of lesson 2 is all of our horizon, or all of our observations of the horizon on the z-axis, and that's where we look at the pictures of ship that appears to be sinking on the horizon bottom up. And so that's where we made like a really important prediction. And we predicted that the reason we see that is because of refraction through the air, not because of the curvature of the earth or anything like that. And so after that, we go about testing it. It's all about, so we made our predictions, and then we've got to go test it and really study into the effects of the atmosphere. And so all of lesson 3 is dedicated to that. Well, studying the effects of the atmosphere.
But with those, the photographs is the very famous one with the ship with 3 masts, because that's such a good example of it.
Yeah, that one's right there in lesson 2. That's the one we look at with our prediction.
Right, now that is an excellently crisp horizon. There's no to very little distortion there, and yet I don't really.
If you actually look at the picture, though, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Sorry.
No, okay. Listen. I mean, we're going to accidentally talk over each other at time to time. I'm cool with that.
Yeah,
it's different. It's different than me or you just shouting over each other. That's a different thing.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. No, what I was saying was, it's a crisp horizon, unlike that black. I don't really want to go into black swan because I believe it's been debunked thoroughly. But unlike that, with that image, whatever it shows, you can see that the platform is distorted like crazy. All the cranes and that are wibbly wobbly.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
But there isn't in that photo with a 3-mast ship. So.
Well, okay. So the black swan is very, very distorted. I totally agree with that. And so I really ask, don't get me confused with Nathan Oakley. Nathan Oakley is totally different ballgame than me. And so he's all about it only happens because of perspective. And that's not my claim at all. I totally am all about this whole refraction thing. The whole reason we see this phenomena appearing to take place is because of refraction. The light gets bent downward as it travels through the air. And I'm doing a big top 10 video about the different flat earthers out there. And I'm really looking forward to getting that done this week, hopefully.
But
with I'm talking about some of the major flat earth consensuses, I guess you could say, because everyone really picks on Nathan Oakley, but he's just a small potato in comparison to Rob Skiba. Rob Skiba is a major one he's the guy who comes up with the whole refraction thing, and he started.
I would like to say, Kyle, that's one thing I think is wonderful. Hearing a flat earther describe Nathan Oakley as a small potato, I don't think anyone would disagree with you on that. What I was going to say though, with things like the ship and that disappearing over the horizon. Refraction varies depending on the temperature of the water, the temperature of the air, the temperature of the air at different levels. And
I totally agree.
Yeah,
I totally agree.
That ship, that ship,
we need a picture.
There wasn't distortion.
We need a visual here. So
So let's see if I can find it. We can carry on talking. I've just got to try and find.
I've got one in my picture, and you can look at the mast, and you can see how the mast doesn't look straight. You can see some distortion going on there.
So you don't think it's perspective? You think?
No.
Okay. Well,
there is some perspective going on, and that's why as it goes farther away, it appears to shrink. And so, there's some perspective, but that's not what's causing the bottom of the boat to disappear.
Yeah, that doesn't work, does it?
Yeah, perspective doesn't do that.
Right.
I'm an artist and everything, and
I'm going to.
Yeah.
I just say I'm going to see if I can. I've got the image now, just so that we're looking at what we should be. I'm going to see if I can pull it up.
I spent a long time studying 1-point perspective, and that's really basic stuff, but nowhere in 1-point perspective do you learn that the bottom of something is supposed to disappear over the distance.
Oh, sorry, let me try that again. Right, it should be coming through. You're right, there's some wibbly wobbliness left to right on the mast. I couldn't quite recall that. But when you're saying perspective, hopefully that's come through to the live stream about now. You should see it shortly, Kyle. The distortion there is in the mast, like the centre mast, a short way above its sail, the mast is thick, and then it suddenly has a little bend to the right and then back to the left again. So yeah, there's some slight left and right wibbly wobbliness. It doesn't seem much in a way of stretching upwards or squishing down, and yet the entirety of the hull and the bottom of the sails is gone. Everything. So it's not being distorted by refraction; it's disappeared.
And so there's different kinds of refraction going on here. And I spend a lot of time talking about that in lesson 3, about how there's heat haze, and that's what's causing that wibbly wobbly stuff that you're talking about. That's heat haze. As the heat rises and you get that wibbly wobbly stuff. But this other kind of refraction is something different. I think there's a name for it that like a Fata Morgana is one type of refraction. There's multiple different kinds of refraction out there.
Things like Fata Morgana appear and disappear. And sorry, everyone, I accidentally loaded something else up for a while. But things like Fata Morgana vary day by day. But if that ship sailed there, when it reaches that sort of distance, you're going to get that effect every time.
And no, I don't agree with you there. We only see that one picture. I'd love to see that on an everyday thing. And so we're making assumptions there, saying it's always the case. But we look at so many other instances, like there's the Chicago skyline, for example. Okay, we don't see the Chicago skyline the same every single day. That much is very much established.
Most of the time, I'm just showing another one with, so that'll come through to you shortly. With a container ship, the entire ship is hidden, but the containers on its back are not.
Yeah, it's the same kind of concept here.
But there's no distortion.
I definitely,
There isn't distortion there.
There isn't any kind of yeah, heat haze. So, like I said, there's different kind. Just because we don't see the heat haze in there doesn't mean that it's not being distorted.
But you can calculate where that curve is. I don't know if you've ever looked at Earth curve calculators. And incidentally, with Earth curve calculators, they do say that the distances are less reliable at low levels. You're not halfway up a hill or whatever, and across water. So you are going to get more distortion with viewings across oceans and seas, of course.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah, and that's part of the unfortunate thing about doing that. Any kind of boat observation is that's going to definitely take place. You're going to have some refraction going on there, and that's where it's really interesting as we observe these different things throughout different times of the year. And so I've noticed that in the wintertime you can see a lot farther than you can see in the summertime, which is a really interesting thing to take into account.
Yeah, there's yet another one being shown. I don't really know what to say. Someone arguing refraction for this has surprised me. I mean, because the normal thing is where they say it's perspective because it's angular resolution, and yet with that, for instance, with that 3-mast ship, the angular resolution doesn't just work up down. It works left, right, as well. So it's funny, you could still see the mast and the rigging, but you couldn't see the entire large hull.
Yeah.
So that really is ridiculous.
And so my whole thing here is with my channel here is I've got up to lesson 2 where I made that prediction, and then after that it's all about trying to understand the atmosphere, and then we try to take the atmosphere out of the picture, and so then we can just have the shape of the Earth. Does that make sense? We got to take one and then subtract it from the other. And so
certainly, if you had no atmosphere, you would not be having problems with anything like this. You would see the geometric horizon rather than the apparent horizon. You could use the calculator, assuming a surface like the sea, which is level. Rather than hills and mountains, you could use the calculator, get the exact distance, and with an object at that distance, you could tell exactly what amount of it would be hidden
I've
behind
got a
the
video
curve.
about the Earth curvature calculator there, and about how the Earth curvature calculator assumes that there is no atmosphere, and everyone accepts that there is an atmosphere.
Actually, I don't think it does. Because, although there are
Depends on
several.
which Earth curvature calculator you're talking
Yes,
about.
I was going to say there are several because ones I've seen assume. Well, you say assume no atmosphere because they do say about them being less reliable at low levels over water because of refraction, which is a real effect. Of course, it is. And with those images, like that last one we looked at, well, all of those 3 images are showed. There is refraction, which will extend the distance or decrease the distance slightly under certain conditions, extend the distance of the apparent horizon, but there's still no explanation as to why at some distance the bottom part of objects disappear. And for instance, no matter with how big a telescope,
always happen.
well, what are you saying that a ship could under the right conditions, the ship could keep sailing away and it would never get hidden then? It would just get smaller, smaller, smaller until you could no longer see it by eye, could no longer see it with cameras or telescopes because it's just too far away, but it's not actually hidden behind anything. Is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying that refraction varies, as you mentioned. Sometimes you can see a lot farther sometimes, and then sometimes you can't. But my whole basis of how the sun sets is because of refraction.
Right. Well, I'd like to talk about that then.
Okay.
How does the sun set because of refraction? Can I ask you first of all, with regard to the sun, do you have any thoughts on its size and height and distance from us?
No, I have a lot of thoughts on them, but I don't claim to know the exact size of the sun, because the only way I can know the exact size of the sun or the distance of the sun is by knowing exactly how refracted those light rays are being bent. I know that there's a lot of refraction that takes place in the air. And I also remember, I believe in a big firmament that's over our heads. Okay. And I believe that they are on the other side of this firmament or inside the firmament.
Oh,
and
sorry. Can I just clarify that?
Okay.
Sorry, you're saying the sun is inside this dome, or outside the dome, or you're not sure, or is it sort of mounted on the dome? I mean, what is it you think?
All right. I don't. There's a lot of these things that I'm still investigating, but as far as I can tell, it is on the other side of the dome or inside of, or like, think of like having different
Embedded
layers
in.
of it, and it's like, what's that?
Yeah, I said so. Either on the other side of the dome, or do you mean or embedded in the dome? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, it's like
okay.
It's like yeah. Think of like a double pane glass or something like that, and you've got the sun that's inside that double pane glass.
So what about the moon?
I think the moon is with the sun there. Yeah.
So how does the moon eclipse the sun then? How does it get in front of the sun?
By going in front of the sun, probably.
So you think that they're what, roughly or exactly the same size and the same distance?
I like I told you, I don't make any claims as to exactly how far the sun is, nor how fast it moves or anything like that. There's a lot of these things I don't know because I don't know how much the light is being refracted. I don't know the density of the firmament, like how thick it is or all these other things. And so the only way to know for sure these things is by knowing exactly what is going on with the light. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if it was all straight lines, we could definitely do that. But I don't believe that the light rays are going in straight lines. And that goes into so many other things that I talk about with lessons 4, 5, and 6. Lessons 4, 5, and 6 are all about the sun, moon, and stars, and our different observations that we take.
I was just going to raise a couple of things about stars. Stars are moving relative to each other, although such a visually small amount you can't tell by eye. Although if you look at photographs of Barnard's star over several years, you can see it's physically moved against the other stars. But leaving that aside, stars, the constellations, the patterns, because they are just patterns, they're not any physical thing, they're just the way the lights line up. The constellations don't change. So as the stars wheel overhead, rising in the east, going across and setting somewhere rising in the east, setting somewhere in the west, they stay in that pattern. They don't change. They don't distort, so that once they get near the horizon, for instance, refraction distorts the pattern, so it changes or gets bigger, smaller, squished, or anything. So why would the sun? Because we're talking about small apparent points of light. They're not very bright to our eyes. They're very small. So if there's any refraction, they would get affected a great deal more, I would have thought, than the light from the sun, which is blinding to look at.
Okay, so your whole thing with the stars is that you expect them to get displaced as they get near to the horizon, if it is caused by refraction. Is that right?
Certainly if there's enough refraction to hide a ship and hide the sun, because you're talking about refraction causing it, then surely it should do something to weak little lights like stars.
I'm pretty sure that navigators who look at the stars, they don't trust the stars near the horizon because of they are aware of this refraction. And you'd have to check me on that, but that was last I heard that they did. If it gets like within like the degrees, I'm a little foggy on the numbers in that area, but the last time I checked, that was the case.
Well, okay, we'll have to leave that, but it's a thought, because I can imagine that there is a certain amount of effect of refraction as stars appear lower and lower and closer to the horizon. But if we're talking with the sun, which is so bright that it gives us an entire daylight, you can't look at it with the naked eye, then it's going to be flipping obvious with little lights like stars. Can I ask you about? So I said a couple of things about stars. Another one was, do you think that they are suns that are light years away?
No,
So what do
no.
you think stars are?
Uh, yeah, there's a lot of things I don't know about stars, but that's just because I don't like. I try not to. I do make some assumptions of a lot of different places, but there's a lot of things that are just very open ended. I acknowledge that they are lights, and but there's a whole lot about them I just don't know and understand about them. Does that make sense?
Well, I think it would be something for you really to look. If you're genuinely open, something that's really worth looking at. Because, for instance, if we take an image of certain stars at one point of the year, and 6 months later take another image of those same stars, these are close stars. They appear to have moved against the background. The same idea as if you hold your finger up in front of your face, close one eye, close the other, your finger moves. Parallax. So they move apparently against the background of further stars. So using parallax and a baseline of our orbit around the sun, which I know you're not going to accept orbit around the sun, but using that, you can calculate the distance. That's how they calculated the distance to the nearest stars.
That's all assuming straight lines. Remember, that's all
what's
assuming
going to bend it?
light travels in straight lines, and I don't assume that these travel in straight lines based on my observations of the firmament and other things.
Okay, can you explain how you don't think light travels in straight lines then? Or is it you just talking about just general refraction that we get in the atmosphere?
Okay, so there is atmospheric refraction, and I spend a good amount of time talking about that, and that's why we see stars twinkle at night, right? That's refraction going on.
Actually, that's a good point. Yes, it is. That is caused by refraction, but that actually shows you the minimal effect. It's some twinkling, not moving them around and hiding them. But carry on.
There's a lot of wind and heat haze, and the atmosphere's moving around, and so that causes the stars to twinkle and do other things. That's one type, and so there's two different types of refraction here that I teach about. One is that atmospheric refraction, and that can take place in all sorts of different it affects a lot of different things. Then the second one, it comes from the firmament. There's the firmament refraction, because it shine a light through a glass dome, it's going to cause things to get displaced.
Okay.
And so the firmament refraction isn't going to distort the stars or anything like that, just like looking through a lens here. And so the firmament refraction answers so many different questions about the stars, such as how does the Southern Cross work? And so the firmament answers the Southern Cross question that so many people point to with flat earthers. How do you explain the Southern Cross? Why can we see the Southern Cross in South America and in Africa at the same time? And so it's
go on, explain that, because
I got a whole video explaining about that. And,
no, I appreciate that, but first of all, I haven't watched every one of your videos, and
totally
a lot
fine.
of people here would not have even heard of you, so wouldn't have seen any of your videos. So because you said the firmament refraction won't distort the stars. Why? What is the firmament doing then? Distortion wise,
Okay, so what is it doing distortion wise? It's okay. So trying to think about all this.
Okay. Well, I would say that some of the things
it's moving the stars. That's what I'm saying, and I'm trying to recall exactly how I described it in my video, because I did a lot better. I'm not as gifted at impromptu speaking as I am with going off of a script as I do with my videos.
And to be fair, Kyle, I did make clear before I brought you on that this is not a formal debate. We're just having a chat, okay? So because it's not a formal debate, I mean, some people will think perhaps you got this right and that wrong, and I've got this right and that wrong, but this isn't a win-lose debate, okay?
Yeah, this is just kind of exploring and kind of getting familiar with each other's views, and that's totally fine. I got that, and so we could bring this up again in the future and talk about something much more in detail.
Yes, well, it would be nice if you're up for it sometime for us to actually arrange a formal debate where I pick 2 or 3 evidences and give you what I'm going to argue, and you do the same for me, and we take turns. Okay. So I'd like to do that sometime, but that's not today. Today it's more free format. Let's see where we get. I do want to just. I'm just going out to read a super chat. I'm just trying to see where it is. A super chat I've got because I try and keep up to date with them. Cygnus. Let's see if it shows the whole thing. Cygnus TSP. Mr. S. Oh, I've got the same problem. It doesn't show me the whole super chat. I'm going to have to scroll back. So beg your pardon, Cygnus. Oh, here we go. Cygnus TSP. Mr. S, you're being cordial and pleasant. Unfortunately, Carl said, I don't know what that is to all your questions, but just rambles about refraction. So feel free to comment on that, Kyle, if you wish.
Okay. So, yeah, there's a lot of things I don't know. And that's part of being a good scientist, right? Is saying, I don't know. When you don't just randomly say something and call it a fact. Does that make sense?
That is true. That is true. But then what can you... how have you weighed up all the evidence of... I don't know, I'm going to pluck a figure up my butt. 99% of scientists, astronomers and so on who think different from you. The evidence. Thinking of things like redshift, blue shift, galaxies, cosmic background radiation, probes we've sent to planets, things like galactic lensing, which was predicted before it was ever seen, which is the mass of a galaxy actually bending the light of galaxies further beyond. There's a lot of evidence. I'm using, an awful lot of evidence. So how do you throw that all away?
At one time, I did accept that as evidence, but then my views changed a lot. I found that a lot of that stuff was just unverifiable. And so I'm still learning, and it's all about kind of rebuilding that foundation. And you've got to challenge your understanding of things in order to build a stronger foundation. And so that's what I'm really trying to do here, is ask a lot of questions and then build that stronger foundation. And so there's a lot of things like we could talk about, the redshift thing and get into verifying their claims. And that's what it really boils down to. And so I can't just say, okay, well, my textbook said it, therefore it's right. And that's the big failure of traditional school, as we know it, is I read it in a textbook and therefore it is right. And that was my experience in high school and college, all that. So I got a bachelor's degree in so many things, too many things. We're just saying, okay, well, this scientist says so, therefore it's right. Foundation on that.
When you're in college and school, you are learning the current settled science.
Yes, I understand that.
So you're going to have to take a lot of that. On trust is probably the wrong word, but take a lot of that as just accept it.
It's based on faith. Your faith.
No. It's not faith. It's a consistent set of evidences that they all work together. Predictions have been made, like the prediction of galactic lensing.
Okay.
But when someone's gone all the way through, if they've become a scientist, then what they want to do is discover something new or disprove something that is already believed to be the case, and that's how they make a name. And for instance, I don't know
if it was all verifiable. And so this is coming down to that trust issue. Is my whole experience and why I became a flat earther was I looked at my experience so far and I saw way too much of just trusting something because that's what my textbook said or that's what my teacher said. Therefore, it must be right. And I can't accept that. And so I've got to go out and find the verifiability of all those things. And once I have the verifiability, then I'm good.
Well, some things, like for instance, galactic lensing, which I know little about. I've seen photos of it and I know it was predicted. But something like that, you or I could not either prove or disprove. We don't have, and I'm presuming we don't have the knowledge, the education, the equipment to be able to test something like that. So we have to accept. Well, yeah, but then how do you know elevators work? Have you tested elevators and checked all the equipment and worked out the mechanics? No, you have to accept that people with knowledge and experience and training have designed that elevator to work and to work safely. And you will quite happily step into that elevator, press the button and go up to the 100th floor. Do you know what I mean? You do not have to work your way through that again.
comes down to that verifiability. That's like the most important thing about science. That's what defines science versus pseudoscience, right?
Yes,
Do you disagree about that?
but
And so
when
verifiability is the key word. And so I can verify how well an elevator works. That's verifiable. I can go test it for myself. But if you're going to talk about something else that I can't test, then that's irrelevant to me. I can't verify it. Therefore, for me, I just look at it like, okay, so what?
Yeah, but I can't verify about galactic lensing. I'm not trying to harp on about that, but that's something that's quite a good example in that, as I said, it was predicted and then shown. However, other people can. So if scientist A comes along and says, look, this shows that the prediction of galactic lensing is correct. Here's an image of it. Other scientists could come along and would look at that. They would take the information, they would check it, they would try and repeat the experiment, and if they found that they could not, then those questions would be raised. Look, you're wrong. We can't show that there's galactic lensing, and the first one would have to either produce more evidence or. Do you see what I'm saying?
Okay.
Someone will have verified it.
With an argument like that, you've got one person who understands the data, and then you got another person who understands the data, and if they can both verify it themselves, then that means something for the two of them. But that doesn't mean it verifies it for me. Does that make sense? And so we've got parallel little clique here, but I'm not a part of that clique, and so therefore that information is still meaningless to me.
But you cannot.
You can't just make an appeal to authority.
No. I'm not talking about an appeal to authority, but I don't know what your range of.
All the scientists out there, that's making an ad populum argument, and I'm not really about that either.
No, that is not what I'm talking about. For instance, I came from an IT background, and although I've been out of it for quite a few years, I understood a lot about how computers work. I could program and write software to do all sorts of things, whereas Joe Bloggs down the street hasn't got the faintest idea about it, but would happily use a program that I've written and would have to accept that I know what I was doing, that other people have tested it, other people have used it, and it works. Therefore, they will just use it without understanding anything about it. As far as they're concerned, it's a keyboard, a screen, and a box. You can't expect everybody to verify everything. Otherwise, every time someone's born, as soon as they get old enough, they'll have to check things like, are wheels round? How do you make fire? We have to build upon existing knowledge. That's not appealing to authority. Actually, I'm going to read another chat. Irish Dublin girl chatted $5 saying, "I'm trying to be on best behaviour, but someone is making it difficult. Ha ha ha! Angry face. Can I be my can I be my bitchiness?"
I talked about that in my syllabus. There is, I just question certain things. I can do it so lightly, and I try to do it as non-offensively as possible. But I just question certain things about here, and then all of a sudden people act like I insulted their mother. I'm like, I'm not trying to offend anyone here. I'm just that's part about good science, though, right? You're supposed to ask questions.
Kyle, yes, you are supposed to ask questions, and nobody is offended. Okay, I mean, if you were, I'm not suggesting for a moment, but if you were started ranting off some hate speech or something like that, yeah, people get offended by that, of course. But
no. You don't know. Like, just like people really hate Simon Dan. There's a big war going on here. People throw and bash him from the flat Earth side towards Simon Dan, and it goes the same way. Whenever Simon Dan features one of my videos, I get slammed with a ton of actual hate mail and everything. It's crazy. And it's I've noticed here one of your followers there, Sean Hawkins, he does videos about me continually, and he can get really riled up about them just because he just sees me as so disingenuous, and he's got this whole personification of me that I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of things that come into it. I don't know where they're coming from, and so I'm just trying to do the best I can here.
Well, I'll take you at face value, Kyle. You say you're trying to do the best. I mean, the best you can. Obviously, I think you're totally wrong and grossly mistaken. But I would accept.
Okay.
But I would accept that you're doing it from a good position with goodwill. Okay,
Huh?
I have no reason to think that you're doing it. Let's say just for the money or just to wind people up. Or maybe you are, but I have no reason to know that. So I'll take you at face value. And obviously, I'm disagreeing, but
That's okay.
we can disagree without being obnoxious. Bjorn
That's
Kamitz
totally okay.
Okay, cool. Bjorn Kamitz has just super chatted 200 Swedish krona saying, I recently saw a video demonstrating the sunset. Nothing about the video description claims anything. Would be interested to see you and the guests' reaction to it. Title of the video, Sunset, Globe versus Flat Real World Test. Well, that's interesting, Bjorn, but it gets a bit awkward trying to show a video because I'd be seeing it at a different time from you guys, seeing it at a different time from Kyle, so that'd be quite difficult. Quite difficult. But still sticking with stars, Kyle,
Huh?
I think the biggie for flat earthers to explain, which I have never heard even a slightest reasonable explanation for, is 2 points of stellar rotation in the night sky. I.e., if you are in the northern, I will call it hemisphere, but if you're north of the equator, then let's say the stars rotate in one direction, roughly around Polaris, and yet if you go south of the equator, or if you're further south and look south towards Sigma Octantis, that the stars rotate in the other direction. How can you have 2 points of rotation of any direction, but 2 points of rotation if the stars are on a dome above you?
Well, I have a video addressing that exact thing. I'm really glad you asked about
You've
that.
got a lot of videos.
I do. I do. My entire playlist here of all of my different flat Earth videos is like over 100 videos. But that one's part of lesson 6 here. Lesson 6 is all about different observations of the stars, and you're not the only one who's asked that question about
Oh, I know.
why stars appear. Yeah, why stars appear to rotate in one direction north of the equator and
Yep.
in another direction south of the equator. And I really got into answering that one, and
Can you
I
give
really
us?
liked.
I was going to say, can you give us even a basic explanation for how that could be possible?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Okay, so my video, I think it was my daughter here. I had her swing around. I think it was a chain. It was either a chain or a hula hoop. I know when I was making the video, I did it 2 different ways, right? And so if you swing a chain around, and you view someone from the front, that chain is going to look going, we'll say, counterclockwise from the front. And then if they continue to swing that chain around, and then you walk around behind them, all of a sudden now that chain will appear to go around counterclockwise. And so it works very similar with the stars.
I don't see.
It's all.
So when you say swinging a chain, let's say I was stood in one spot with my arm stuck out towards you, and was rotating. That arm's passing from. I'm trying to look in the camera from your left to your right as I go round, come round again, left to the right. If you walked behind me, it would still be doing exactly the same. It would appear in your left and go to your right.
All right.
Unless I'm misunderstanding your setup.
You have to watch the video to get a good visualization of it, because when you're standing in front of them and you're swinging a chain around vertically.
Oh, vertically. Okay.
Vertical circles.
Yep.
You're doing vertical circles with this chain.
Yep.
When you're standing in front of the person, it looks like you're doing clockwise or counterclockwise, and then on the other side, it's the opposite. They're going to be going counterclockwise.
But there's still
sense?
1 point of rotation. It's in your daughter's hand where she's swinging
Yeah.
the chain. Whereas, let's say you're stood on the equator. Now you might not quite see the pole star because it would be right on the horizon, but those stars would be wheeling, drawing circles in one direction, and yet you turn around the other way, they're drawing circles in the other direction. They're going around 2 points. Even if you forget the direction they're going around 2 points. How can they?
Yeah.
If it's a firmament rotating or something like that?
They're all moving the same direction. That's the thing. They're all moving the same direction, and it's about your perspective. You're the one who's changing. And so when you look north, they're all going one direction. Then all of a sudden you turn around and look south. They're all going to appear like they're going the other direction.
Yes, but okay. Let's just imagine, just for the sake of argument, the stars are stuck on a big flat disc. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And that disc is on a pole that is at the North Pole, okay, and you start
Mhm.
that disk rotating. So if you were you're halfway out, halfway, or you're towards the equator. If you looked towards that pole, those stars would be rotating around the pole in a certain direction. You turn the other way, yes, they will look as though they're going the other direction, but they won't be going round another point. The point they're rotating about would be behind you, i.e., still to the north.
Oh, okay. So
Do you see what I'm saying?
now you're jumping. Now you're crossing fields here, and so that's a totally different lesson here. You're talking about the
2
southern
points.
Southern Cross now.
No, well, no, I'm talking about 2 points of stellar rotation.
Huh? Yeah, the Southern Cross, or I understand the Southern Cross isn't the point of rotation. It actually points to the point of rotation in the south, right? So there's the stars that circle around Polaris, and then there's the stars that I think was it Sigma Octantis
Sigma Octantis, yes.
Yeah, that's it.
That's
and so
roughly
that's the other point of
roughly.
rotation.
Yes.
That's what you're talking about. Right?
Yes. So how can you have 2 points of rotation? That's my question. I'm leaving aside the direction of rotation, but just the fact that there's 2 points of rotation. So if you look to the north, it's drawing circles round one point. Look to the south, it's drawing circles round another point. How can there be 2 points?
That gets more. I don't remember everything I said exactly off of that one. It's been a while since I did that video about the Southern Cross, but that's the one that you want to look into when it comes to answering that to the best of my ability. Now, I can't say I understand everything. There's a lot of things I don't understand about that, exactly why it appears to do that. There's some good videos that actually show that happening when it comes to refraction going through the firmament. And I think I've got some of those videos in there as well. That's not quite in that lesson, but it's like next to it and around that lesson that talk about, and that's the most simple way I can describe it to you is it has to do with the firmament and the way that's the light is being refracted through that.
So I could imagine refraction or even a dome affecting the apparent paths of the stars. I'm not agreeing with it, but I could imagine that. But that still wouldn't give you a point in the sky to the south that you have the stars.
I have an example of that.
Sorry,
I've got an example of that in the playlist. I don't remember who did it. I wasn't the one who made the video, but someone actually showed like a little last thing, and you actually get this whole two points of rotation happening in a firmament. And I thought that was a really fascinating observation. So it can be replicated.
Right. Well, I'll be honest and say I don't think you've given a reasonable explanation of how you can have 2 points of rotation. As I said, I'm leaving aside the direction.
Right, you know.
Yeah,
I don't have all my visuals right now.
Well, I tell you what, Kyle. Maybe that's one we can put on hold then for having a debate. So you can actually have visuals, videos, images, or whatever, and we can do it on camera as well. And we could, okay. Someone's actually asked an interesting question. I think it was Glober Mom, I think. Yes, and it's one that I've raised before as well. You said about the sun apparently setting because of refraction and so on. How can the sun light up the underneath of clouds? And sort of related to that, and I know that you've done a video about it, how can the sun in the mornings light up the tops of mountain first, and then gradually the sun goes down the mountain, and in the evening the top of the mountain is the last thing to be lit, i.e. the sun is shining upwards towards the top? Can you explain or come up with some sort of explanation for that?
So Rob Skiba, I'm going to give you a little spoiler alert because I'm doing a top 10 video on the most popular flat earthers out there, or most influential ones. Rob Skiba is number 2. And Rob Skiba actually has a really good demonstration talking about how the light through the firmament can light up the bottoms of the clouds in the morning. So he does a demonstration replicating that.
What was his demonstration roughly? What did he have? You're saying he did some sort of experiment or test with something?
Yeah, he does a great demonstration. So he got this whole thing from it was a professor at Notre Dame University here in the States, and this professor from Notre Dame, he talked about how the atmosphere acts like a lens, and he gave the professor in the news report. He gave an example of holding up a magnifying glass to show how the light bends through the atmosphere, and so that gave Rob Skiba a great big foundation for this. He's the guy who started this whole atmospheric refraction thing. And I remember he's number 2, and so going back to Nathan Oakley being a small potato, he's not even on the top 10 list, by the way. So
I do like that, Kyle. That's one thing I'm going to agree with. Nathan Oakley is nothing.
He's not even on the top 10 list.
Can I just ask people in the chat, would you give Kyle a thumbs up for describing Nathan Oakley as not even a hot potato or whatever it was? We'll see if you get some thumbs up from that, Kyle. I'm sure.
Yeah, but Rob Skiba, he's a very big potato, and there's a lot of other ones too. And I understand there's a lot of people who have very similar views with him.
Well, you're saying about him using a magnifying glass to replicate refraction. Absolutely.
He got that all from the professor from Notre Dame.
Oh, okay.
He got that whole thing.
Okay. Because what I was going to say was
part of the Chicago skyline thing.
Well, what I was going to say, absolutely, and you've got some thumbs up already on that one. Absolutely, the magnifying lens is not a perfect replication, but it does work by refraction.
Give me an example of
Carl. I've done an experiment. It was involved with the black swan using a magnifying glass. But what I was going to say was, if the sun is some distance above, you might not be able to put your finger on exactly how far above, but the sun is some distance above the Earth. Then to light the underside of the clouds, that refraction would have to have the light coming down, bending, going back up again. That's we're not talking about putting a slight bend in a straight line. We're talking about turning it back at greater than however many degrees. That's a big ask.
It definitely would go back up again. I agree. That's got to happen there.
No. I'm saying. Oh yes, it would have to in order to light the bottom of the clouds. But I'm saying that's not possible.
That's not what we see, though. That's not what the demonstration shows.
I've not seen the demonstration.
You've got to see the demonstration here. It's in my playlist here under the sun, and part of lesson 4.
Well, you're certainly giving a good push on your channel. I don't mind that because you've done a decent thing by coming on here, trusting that I treat you fairly, and I don't mind that. I have, and I'll do it one more time here, or I'll do it a bit later on as well. I've certainly already a couple times dropped links to Kyle's channel in the chat, and it's in the it's in the description as well. So Kyle, I suspect you will get a few visitors. I hope you've got a thick skin.
Yeah.
Okay.
When people comment, though, just be warned, there's a lot of filtering that's going to take place there because I don't have any tolerance for trolls on my channel.
Okay, well, your channel is your channel, and it's up to you how you moderate your own channel, of course. I hope that you would leave comments that are challenging, or even appear to have rock solid evidence. Even if you delete others that you think are just rude, okay? But yeah, it's your channel. I can't stop you from moderating your channel as you see fit.
Okay. For something else that we're going to talk about, I don't remember what it was. That's fine.
Well, is there anything in particular? Is there any subject that you'd particularly like to talk about?
I think one of the really strong videos that I did about the light refracting through the air and getting bent downward that I thought was really strong was I did one on infrared. Infrared was a really strong one, and I talked about the spectrum we see in the clouds. You still there?
Yes, yes, I'm listening to you.
Okay. Yeah. Uh, anyways, that one's way worth seeing, I think.
So what were you showing with infrared then?
Well, I talked about uh, the spectrum and how we can see the different colors of the rainbow, right? And as light travels through or as light travels through the atmosphere, it gets separated, and so uh, red and infrared end up reaching a lot farther than all the other colors. They end up are much more sensitive to refraction, and so if there's anyone out there who's really doubting this whole light gets bent downward through the atmosphere, that's the one I really recommend seeing. And I understand you. I think you agree with me that light gets bent as it travels through the atmosphere. Do you not? I know
There is.
Simon Dan's a big believer in that. I don't know about you.
Yeah, no. I would say yes. There is definitely refraction. That's why, if you look at the horizon across the sea, on certain, you gave the example of the Chicago skyline. I'm pretty sure that's the one where it very rarely appears, and then on occasion, or there's another skyline, isn't there? I'm not sure which one, but it only
There's a lot of
appears.
them.
It only appears on certain days when the weather is just right. Now, it's got to be refraction. It's changes in the atmosphere affecting how far you can see, i.e., how much the light is bent. Absolutely,
Yeah.
definitely, 100%. There is refraction. Otherwise, every single day, everything would look exactly the same, and it doesn't. So yes, there is refraction.
The
That
Chicago skyline was a really unique one because they talked about how you could see it at different times of the year. It was in the winter time that you could see it, most of it, but you could see it. It wasn't just a one-time cherry picking kind of a item. It happened a lot. It was a very frequent occurrence to be able to see that. Even in the summertime, you just couldn't see it as much in the summertime.
But then, if you're relying on, excuse me, do apologise. I was up
Fine.
early this morning. This is the tail end of the day for me. I know it's middle of the day for you. Um,
Yeah.
yes, there's variation because weather changes, temperature changes, air density is changing, so you get different levels of refraction, of course. But
Uh,
there are so many things that you can see that would be affected all the time by varying refraction, but it's just not the case. Just
and I'd love to see you talk more about that more in the future. Kind of make a case on that, present it. That's not your claim there, that it's not generally the case, because as far as I can tell, as long as there's atmosphere, there is refraction.
Yes, yes, absolutely, but definitely to the extent that, and this is something that really winds Nathan Oakley up, that the geometric horizon, the physical tangent line drawn from your eye to the edge of the ball, that's physical, that's geometric, but what we see is different every day because of refraction. So, I mean, I'm looking through glasses. Everything I
Yeah,
see, yes, it's pulled everything into focus for my eyes, but everything, all that light is bent all the time.
yeah,
Although it's a fixed prescription, so it's not changing all the time. But the atmosphere
yeah.
is not a fixed prescription; it's varying. I'm going to take
I
this
agree.
opportunity to read another super chat from Daniel Pratt's water heater for $4 US$99, saying, as an actual teacher, I'm offended every time he refers to himself as one. There are 8 pages of citations in a second grade science book.
Uh,
I'm not asking you to dox yourself or say anything that you're not happy saying, Kyle, but can I ask what your background is? Are you okay to say that?
I actually have a video that it's called Full Disclosure, and I talk about. I think you even mentioned that in your video there
I did
on my full
indeed.
disclosure. Yeah, and so I talked about my bachelor's degree of science in art, and so uh, yeah, so that's
So
my
you're
educational background. There's more to it in other different places, but that's like the big bulk of it.
well.
But
Actually, I'm going to
really,
jump. I'm going
I,
to jump in. I'm going to jump in there for a second, if I
for
may. My problem with that video. Kudos to you for actually publishing your educational
let's be
background.
upfront and open.
But I must admit, and I I'm going to speak a little harshly here. I
Go
thought
for
that in that video you were disingenuous in the way that you said it, because you said Bachelor of Science in art.
Well,
But a Bachelor
there's
of
a lot of
Science
people
is
who
a
don't
type of
understand
degree.
that.
The subject was not science, was it? It was art.
Whoa. You got to go to so the very first thing I say in my syllabus is I give a dictionary definition of the word science. And so that's really important when you understand what flat earth science means. What am I talking about when it comes to science? And so the dictionary definition of science is a systematic series of observations and experimentations. And so when you understand that, so what does that mean when it comes to a bachelor's degree of science in art? It means I've got a series of observations and experimentations involving art. Does that make sense? And so that's what it means, science in art. And so it's observations and experimentations involving art.
But I am not knocking the degree itself. I'm really not. But it's an art degree, not a science degree. It's not like physics, chemistry.
You're discrediting the whole word, you can go argue with the dictionary on that one. You're discrediting the entire definition of science with that. The systematic study or series of observations and experimentations. So because the entire curriculum definition, that is why they call it science in art. Does that make sense?
It depends on which university you go to, though, doesn't it? Other universities teaching the same sort of things that you were covered in your degree wouldn't call it a Bachelor of Science. They call it, it would be a BA, wouldn't it? In whatever it was, I can't remember. Was it drawing? I can't remember. I do apologise.
I had an emphasis. I had an emphasis in drawing and painting.
Emphasis in drawing and painting, yes.
So there's a series of systematic observations in drawing and painting that were involved. There's a lot of other things that went into that too.
But that's not science. That's as I said. Kyle, I want to be clear that I'm not knocking the degree. Okay, I really am not. I'm just. I'm disagreeing with you about this idea that it's
arguing with the dictionary of what science
I'm happy
is.
Okay, what experiments are there? What papers would you publish based on stuff you've learnt there? What predictions does it make? Can other people repeat your experiments? I mean, that's the drawing and paint or drawing and painting. Is not science. You may have gone about the drawing and painting in a scientific way. Is that what you're saying?
Arguing about the dictionary.
Well, yeah, I am with this.
Systematized knowledge in general. Okay, systematized knowledge in general. So because this whole curriculum for art was systematized knowledge concerning art. Does that need any kind of experiment? I have a lot of experiments in my videos.
But I'm not talking about.
I even make predictions. Okay?
I'm not talking
about art.
Kyle,
art. There's systematized knowledge involving art.
Kyle, I'm not talking about your videos or whether you've behaved scientifically in your videos or not. I'm not. I was only talking about that because I felt that when you did your full disclosure, and as I said, kudos to you for doing that. I honestly respect that. I felt that you tried to take advantage of the word science by saying, I had a Bachelor of Science in art.
I acknowledged it for what it was. So, yeah, it is science. Like I said, you can argue with the dictionary all day and night. You can go and, say, hey, I think you guys got it wrong here and everything. And you could try and submit that to dictionary.com and all the publishers you want and everything. That's outside of, that's a whole argument with someone else.
Okay,
but for me, I'm just going straight out of the dictionary. A particular branch of knowledge. That's, word for word right out of the dictionary. So particular branch of knowledge concerning art.
Well, a couple of points. Zaphod Beeblebrox has said, surely your degree says either BA or BSc. It says BSc, doesn't it? Doesn't it?
A bachelor's of science. I've got my degree right there.
Yeah. Well, listen. I feel I have made my point. I'm not here just to have obviously to have a slanging match with you. I've made my point. Kyle does have a video on his channel called Full Disclosure or similar, so people can have a look at that. Another guy for FE Peer Review has asked a question of you, Kyle. Did you study physics, astronomy to get your degree? Did you study any of the natural sciences to a depth that
Physics
gives you
was a requirement.
sorry, if I can just finish. Did you study any of the natural sciences to a depth that gives you any more expertise than is the minimum for a college degree? That's a question from FE Peer Review.
Well, part of getting it in science, because there you can get a bachelor's in art, just specifically in art. But with me and my different options, I chose to get a bachelor's of science in art. And when that had a lot more science, natural sciences, I guess you could say, or physical sciences, involving a number of different things. So I told you I took ornithology, I took geography. There's a number of different requirements. I took physics. Those were all involved in requirements of getting that bachelor's of science in art.
Okay, well, you have sort of tried to, I've called you out on that. You've tried to defend yourself on that. Fair enough. I guess we've covered that because, as I said, it's not a formal debate, and I'm not looking for a slanging match. And people can look at your video. As I said, it's called Full Disclosure. It's Full Disclosure, isn't it? Or something very similar to that. It should be quite.
That's exact title.
Okay,
it's just Full Disclosure.
Okay. Okay, so I don't know, does anyone have any specific questions they'd like to ask of Kyle? Sensible questions, please. So what do you think planets are? Do you think that they are other worlds, just lights? Sorry, that's a question from me.
Okay, you're fine. I just go with what I can observe, and I don't look at like the Earth as being a planet and I don't think the wandering stars, as we call them, in the flat Earth community.
Okay, let me rephrase that then.
We don't believe they're anything like the Earth.
Well, let me rephrase it. Let me rephrase it. Try and make it clear. Forget the shape of the Earth, whether it's a sphere or a flat plane. Okay, we have the Earth, but we have planets like Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, etc., moving around. As you said, they're colloquially known as wandering stars because they look like stars and they apparently wander in the sky, whereas other stars do not. So, do you think that they are just like other stars? Do you think that they are spheres? What do you think they are, do you think?
Well, there's a lot of mysteries involved in that, and that's just because of the firmament. There's a lot of different, and I'm okay with that. And I'm all about continuing to learn and experiment to find out more about them as far as I'm capable and able to. Does that make sense?
Okay, so if you're saying, are you saying you just don't know on that one? That's fine if that's what you're going to say.
Well, there's a lot that I don't know about that, and so yes, I did say that I don't know.
Okay, that
doesn't mean I don't know everything about them. I just said I don't see anything that compares them to the Earth. Does that make sense?
Okay. Well, then I would suggest, even with a good pair of binoculars, have a look at Jupiter. And if you have a look at that several hours apart and then a couple of days apart, you will see the moons of Jupiter as they orbit it. That's worth looking at.
I believe I've done that before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
I've got a good neighbor who pointed out to me, "Oh yeah, you got to go see this." And I did that a couple months ago. I went out and observed that with my P1000.
The camera of choice for flat earthers. Yes. Someone has a question for you. Micro Raptor asks you. I'm not quite sure why, but he asks you, what are the internal angles of a triangle with sides of 1, 1, and 1? What are the internal angles of a triangle with sides 1, 1, and 1?
Okay, so he's asking me
a geometry question.
Okay, so it's just take 180 divided by 3. I think it's like 30 degrees. No, that's not right. I don't know all that stuff off the top of my head. I openly admit that I've got a weakness for math.
Okay, but you said you thought it's 180 divided by 3.
Yeah.
I'd say that's a big fat success there.
Oh, good. Yeah.
And now I will let you into a secret because I did know why he asked that. because that's a question that has been asked of many flat earthers, and it's not that they necessarily can't get the right answer, but they've come up with some weird and wonderful answers, including the fact that that they needed triangle calculators and all sorts. But I would say, by saying it's 180 divided by 3, you're pretty much there. If you just followed that through and divided it by 3, you'd have got the answer. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
I openly admit that I've got a weakness for math.
Okay.
But doesn't mean I don't know anything about math, as you saw with the 180 divided by 3. And so, but with me, math, too many people look at math as the end game for everything. And for me, I see math as very much like a painting. Okay, I've got math is just it's a representation of something I observe in reality. Does that make sense? And so I'm just choosing to describe things with numbers rather than colors. Does that make sense?
Well, maths
I've got
does.
to be able to measure it up to. I've got to be able to measure it up to observation.
I'll disclose here that maths is certainly not my strong point, but maths describes things. Bjorn Kamitz has a question. Coming. Sorry, Bjorn Kamitz has a question coming from a different angle, Kyle, and he says, "I wonder where your flat Earth belief comes from. Bible, not just trusting science, something else. Are you a biblical person, a religious person?"
Oh, I'm a very religious person. However, the vast majority of my religion believes very much in a globe Earth. Okay, and so that was my background. I came from a very strong globe Earth religious belief and background, but I just kind of bumped into the flat Earth one day when a coworker of mine, an old Vietnam veteran, he pointed out and said, "Okay, yeah, come see this. There's a bunch of people out there who believe the Earth is flat." And it's like, and so I heard that, and I thought that was the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in the world. So I've got a lot of understanding of where a lot of these people are coming from. They want to come here just so they can point fingers. And it's like, what? How in the world can you believe in a flat Earth? And so I started to look into it, and as I looked into it, there's a lot of different things that I had never challenged before in my life, and a lot of these things in the past were always extremely boring to me. I never really cared about them until all of a sudden the flat Earth came in and challenged them. And then all of a sudden, all of that boringness disappeared. And all of a sudden, what used to be boring was suddenly very interesting to me. And that was, I think, the biggest kick I got out of the flat Earth right there, is kind of taking all these things that used to be boring and all of a sudden turning them to be very interesting topics. And I think that's the number one thing, if I could give to anyone, globe earther, flat earther, anyone, that's what I want to give to them if they watch my channel, is just to take something that they used to think was boring and make it interesting. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So,
okay. A couple more questions coming in, and it's good that these are sensible questions. Philosopher of Nonsense asks, if there is a dome, then where do meteors come from?
I actually plan on doing a video on that one.
So we found one you haven't done yet. Okay.
Yeah, I've got a whole list on my production queue of different ones that are.
So can you give us a sneak preview then? Do you not believe in meteors? Do you have some explanation for where they may come from?
I've got quite a few explanations on meteors, but I prefer not to spoil that video.
Okay, it's a shame, but I do understand that. Okay, can I just ask then, your idea, whatever it is it something that we've heard other people say, or is this something some different explanation that's new?
Well, as far as I'm aware of, I haven't seen a whole lot of meteor explanations out there in the flat Earth community, and I think that's one of the things I really strive to do when it comes to my channel, is producing original content. I've got a lot of different things that I've never heard any other flat earther talk about, and and so okay. I really hope meteors I'd be able to address quite a bit of this unique content.
Well, I know that Multi Tom Tom was in here earlier. I don't know if you've come across him, but I did see a comment by him. I don't know what discussion he was having with people in the chat, but he said that meteors are ice falling from the dome. There we go. I hope I haven't spoilt your video.
Well, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Well, I wouldn't thought so either.
Yeah.
IMD Fox has just super chatted €5.49 saying, I don't remember a priest talking about the globe in Sunday Mass. I guess you could take that both ways. Talking about flat Earth, globe Earth, it just doesn't come into it, does it? Or would you say that it does come into the Bible?
I don't really see it in the Bible. That's a big thing. Is I really don't see a globe being taught anywhere in the Bible.
But do you see flat being taught in the Bible then?
Yes. There's a lot of different scriptures that talk about the circle of the Earth, and there's a lot of other things. I don't have all of the mentionings memorized. I really don't try to, when I do the flat Earth thing, you don't really see me talking about the Bible. I've got two different channels two different playlists, and I try to keep them kind of separate, but I have them both on my channel so people can kind of wander around a little bit and kind of get to know me a little bit better.
Well, I've seen a few of them.
The religious side, I got the scientific side, and so the Flat Earth Institute of Science, it's not really pointing all the time to the religious side.
No, okay, that's fair enough. But I have seen people, flat earthers, mention biblical evidences or proofs of it, and whenever I've seen it, it's been things like it says, the four corners of the earth, or something like that, or you said the circle of the earth. It always seems very vague. It's not as though it's saying and the earth is a flat plane and all shall dwell on it, or something like that. It's nothing definitive either way.
We would have a real good conversation about this would be to actually open up a Bible and start reciting the different verses and actually talking about that way. But unless we do that, then...
Well, I would have to say, from my point of view, I am an atheist. I have read the Bible. I used to go to church when I was younger. I do not believe or accept any of it. But I don't... And I think that those who are religious are mistaken, but I don't knock them for their beliefs, I have my views on whether religion's a good thing, bad thing, but to be honest, I steer clear of religion itself and politics on my channel. I talk about conspiracy theories, flat earth, and that sort of thing.
I understand you've had different experiences than I have, and I've got a really good video that I just highly recommend to everyone, which is my video about faith, science, and revelation, and about the scientific foundation I have for my religion, about experimenting and those things. Yeah, so I don't want to push that on you or anyone else like that, but it's from that. I do have a scientific foundation when it comes to that. I've just had different experiences than you have, and I acknowledge that.
Okay, and perhaps we better steer clear, but although I would say the Bible does say things like mentioning rabbits chewing the cud, and there's other things in there that are scientifically just wrong.
I understand that. Yeah. I understand there's a lot of different things like that that a lot of people have an issue with, and I'm actually a priest, by the way.
So, you're a priest? Okay.
I'm a priest.
Can I ask, so is that Catholic then?
No, I'm a Latter-day Saint.
Church of Latter-day Saints. So,
Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I'm very Christian.
So that's, sorry.
I guess Catholics, they consider themselves Christians also.
I'm trying to think. That's Mormon, isn't it?
We don't call ourselves
but okay, I appreciate that. Church of Latter-day Saints, but is that what other people would think?
Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the full name that we really try to emphasize.
So that's Salt Lake City and golden tablets and all that.
Book of Mormon.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. Sorry, that's my bad. I was just trying to think. Was it a different one? Okay. Well, as I said, I'm not going to argue the toss over your beliefs.
That's fine.
Yeah. That's but that's interesting. So you ask, are you an active priest then?
Oh, absolutely. I'm very active.
So you do sermons and that in a church.
Before this whole COVID thing,
sure.
I teach Sunday school. I was a Sunday school teacher there and everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not that it's that you used to be years ago, or whatever. You are still. You know,
No,
if the churches
yeah,
were open, COVID wasn't a problem, you would be in the church doing your thing.
yeah, teaching.
Okay. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. One second.
We do a big church at home thing right now, and it's really family oriented.
Well, Kyle, there's another guy who was going to be coming along tonight. Let me see if he's still there. He is a globe earther. Other than that, I know very little of him. A guy called Spiderdaddy. Are you cool with me bringing him in so we can chat to him and then make this a three-way conversation?
Sure, sure.
Okay, all right then. Let's bring him in. At least I say he. I've already made that mistake once tonight. I called someone a he who is a she, so sorry about that. I have no reason to know either way. Oh, actually, Daddy. I presume it's a male. Let's bring him in then. Oh, try again.
Colon.
Hello, Spider Daddy.
Oh, hello.
You are
Hi.
live on Mr. Sensible Live with myself, Mr. Sensible, and Kyle Adams. Good evening to you.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening.
So can I just ask, Spider Daddy? I was just saying, I know very little of you. I understand that were you on Nathan Oakley's live stream? Was that right? Was it Nathan Oakley?
Yeah.
Nathan Oakley's live stream. Okay, and you are of the Globe side.
Yes.
Okay.
As Nathan mistakenly denied or assumed that I had fallen to their side.
I see. And
that was the big thing about that one.
I see. Okay. I don't know how much of the stream you caught because I've not been able to keep an eye on the Discord server at the same time while chatting.
Roughly a bit the last 30 minutes or so.
Okay. So you've heard us talking about various things. Do you want to give us a bit of your background and then we'll sort of open it up between the three of us and chat and see where it goes? And honestly, Carl, it's not a case of right, let's gang up on you. Okay, that's not what. So, Spider Daddy, what's your background, and do you have a channel, and etc.?
No channel, just a random nobody. I'm not going to claim I have any accreditation that I don't have. I have basic education. I'm 18. I've almost finished high school level education.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be moving on to university in about a year. So we'll see how that goes.
Can I ask what you're looking to study?
Mechanical engineering. So
cool. Any particular aspect of that, or is it just mechanical engineering in?
Well, related to cars and performance. Cars, yeah, in general.
I'll have to get you to come around and work on my Land Rover.
Well, yeah, probably not going to be a mechanic, but no. I guess. Yeah.
No. Well, my car's 48 years old, so I should think that most mechanics don't understand half of what's under the bonnet of my car anyway.
If it's 48 years old, then that makes it better because it's easier.
It is.
It's simpler.
It is, but if people don't even understand how the gears work on the darn thing. But anyway, we're digressing a bit. Okay, so you ended up on Nathan Oakley. Was that the first time, or had you been on there before?
First time. I mean, I'd been on the just in the server talking to random people and that kind of stuff for a while, and then they had their daily show that they host every day at the same time for the same period. I didn't even watch the actual debate that was going on there because it was something I have no clue what they talk about because they don't let anyone into the actual live, like the original live stream itself.
Yeah.
The after show is something that gets posted later on, and the live stream is always just them circle jerking or something like that.
Yes.
I think they've had some guests sometimes, but it's not really.
Kyle, can I ask you? Have you ever watched any Nathan Oakley?
I don't really watch. I've watched a little bit, so I can kind of get an idea of what his position was on the Black Swan, and because that was such a hot topic for a while, and I think that's what really gives him his name is because he he coined the phrase or black swan when it comes to that observation. Even though he wasn't the only one to do that.
He didn't. It was a globe earther said it's a black swan and explained it, and he picked up on it.
Oh, okay. So he's the one who so someone else named it, and then he just was the one who just really hit the media with it. And so he.
He has the platform, so
he's got the whole black swan thing, and that's what really makes Nathan Oakley really popular because of that, as far as I'm aware. But I don't really follow his channel or anything like that because he's so vulgar.
I was just going to ask you, Carl, what do you think of his technique? And obviously you said he's vulgar. Absolutely. Shouting people down, swearing, and I've not just swearing. If it was a bit of effing and blinding, I could understand it. But I've heard some disgusting stuff on there. Absolutely unbelievable that he would treat, that any person could treat any other person in the way he does.
It makes me really kind of wonder where he's coming from there, because, if he's so against religion there, right? He's so, you're just being religious. I'm like, okay.
But he claims he's a religious person. But then he talks about your fundy sort of fundamentalist globally. I don't understand where he's coming from when he says that, because I'm like, okay, because a lot of people point to him and say, you're building your foundation off of the Bible, and my whole thing is, the flat Earth proves the Bible correct. It's not the Bible proving the flat Earth correct. It's not my foundation. It's the Bible is a great thing, and I very much believe in the Bible. Well, I very, very much want to have a formal debate with you, Carl. I'd love to get that organised so we can pick 2 or 3 particular topics, and let's see what evidence you've got, okay? When you've had a chance to prepare, we can do slides and whatever. That would be great stuff. So, Spiderdaddy, what did you think of your time on Oakley then? And how did he treat you?
It was, from my position, it was fun. It's a lot of fun because... it's something that I'd wanted to get into some kind of, even if it's not really a good debate, because it's with Nathan, so he's got a bit of that's the thing, he's got an anger issue.
Oh boy,
like a serious anger issue.
Yeah.
I think it happens a lot with a lot of different people on either side, is when they just don't feel like they're being heard. They keep saying the exact same thing over and over and over again, and that's something I don't really see Nathan doing, is he doesn't have a whole list of different lessons like I've oriented here to help prevent myself from trying to say the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, but
I think that can be really frustrating for anyone.
Yes, but why though, Kyle? He does cover the same things again and again. At the start of every show, he's got his housekeeping questions, because that's material. If he had a set of videos that covered everything, no matter what people agreed and disagreed with, he's done. As it is, he can keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, as long as people keep watching. And
yes, that makes sense.
If you want to see Nathan Oakley's whole shebang, all of the material, everything, then watch that stream that I was in, because that was one of the things that I wanted to kind of do, because we started somewhere very, very far, early on in the chain, and then you can see every single step in the chain, every single argument that you have to then move on to, where they're like, okay, so if that's the case, then here's the next one. And then they take something else and then they say, okay, this is wrong, so we can move to the next point. And then you arrive at the end where everything's fake and the Earth is flat.
I've found a lot of my frustration comes from forgetting that I'm talking to different people here, because I make one argument with one person, and then all of a sudden I'm having the exact same argument with someone else, and then it's like I forget that I'm talking to someone else and they don't have the same foundation that I just established with one other person. And so when you do this over and over and over again, you just don't feel like you're being heard anymore, and then that frustration builds up. Why isn't anyone listening to me? I've said this 5 million times. Why are you not listening to me? And it's like, I've got kids here, and so I get that with my kids when I go through the same lesson over and over again, and they're just still not getting it. Does that make sense? And so that can be kind of frustrating sometimes. So I think that's what happens with Nathan Oakley and why he gets that big anger issue.
Nathan is also different from that. If you talk to him in chat about other things, other issues, I once pointed out that I was trying to not get shouted at in stream up when he re-streamed it. He re-aired that same debate because he liked it so much, and he I was in the chat there on YouTube, and I was saying, oh, you were being kind of a bit excessively angry at me, and I was trying to not get shouted at. And then he was, in there immediately full caps calling me a liar and saying, well, I wasn't trying to.
That definitely doesn't display any kind of anger whatsoever.
He doesn't have an in-between. It's 0 or 100.
I'm pretty sure, though, a lot of that is for the audience. I'm sure you'll know this expression, Kyle. He's a shock jock, like the radio DJs who would run shows, and they would deliberately have controversial issues. They'd get upset with people because it makes arguments, and people like seeing a train wreck.
Yeah, reality TV for you right there. People love drama.
That's what he's about.
Maybe that was going in. There's definitely some drama that ends up getting into videos to try to boost yourself there and everything. And yeah, I'm really interested in watching things as they go by over time, and that's kind of fascinating. I want to see, what his progress has been. So, this is where he was 6 months ago, this is where he's at now, and this is where he's going to be 6 months in the future. And so I'm really curious to see how his channel does in the future with that. Because there's a lot of other people out there who do similar, who do flat earthers, but like I said, those are the big potatoes, and they're not like that. So I'm really curious as to how successful he's going to be with that in the future compared to these other ones. And so that's part of my top 10 list, is kind of monitoring that. I want to see how people grow, and I want to see how this movement does in the future.
I'll just say I've got had another super chat, which for some reason I've missed, and I can't see the whole chat. I've scrolled back. IMD Fox.
You can see your super chats on your profile somewhere.
Yeah, I've got the channel menu, but it's only showing the first sort of 50 characters of it, unfortunately. Why share? Oh no, actually, hovering over it shows why. It's IMD Fox again for €5.49, saying why share. So this is to you, Kyle. Why share flat Earth instead of like end poverty, world hunger, or racism? So you come from the religious background. So why are you talking about flat Earth then, and not poverty, hunger, racism?
All those things are really important. I do talk about, or I address poverty and racism. I try to anyway, at least on my religious side. Our church has a phenomenal aid program. I don't know if you've ever heard of it before, but it's program? Really worth looking into. The Helping Hands, the whole Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we have a really great welfare program, like best in the world as far as I'm aware.
I've not heard of it, but I think I mean that church is over here in the UK as well. I don't think it's as big.
Absolutely.
It's not as big over in the UK, to my knowledge, as it is in the States.
Yeah, so. You've really got to look into Welfare Square. And so anytime I talk about the church and really promoting that kind of welfare program and kind of addressing poverty, and we're really all about trying to establish independence as much as we possibly can. And so we teach a lot about gardening and other things like that. I've got a really great story on that. I've really got to get it published sometime, about my story about how I used to just be living in on government assistance, and how I went and changed from that lifestyle to where I'm at now. And yeah, it's just a phenomenal story. I've really got to make a video about that.
I'm sure it is, but I suppose the point still holds. You've got a YouTube channel, and you spend. I'm not judging you. I'm just asking because the question was asked. You spend so much time talking about the shape of the Earth, whether it's flat or a globe.
Huh?
So why that as a subject and not?
Why not anything else? Because there's a million other topics to talk about.
Yeah.
Well, flat Earth really is a political thing. I've got a huge political thing.
Why?
I'm all about government transparency, and we really have a great phenomenal distrust when it comes to the government. And so, we talk about vaccines, we talk about all these other things.
So you're saying the shape of the Earth is being... sorry, I'm not saying you're saying. Are you saying that the shape of the Earth is being hidden by governments then? Is that where you're coming from?
Absolutely.
Why?
Well, that's
the
NASA.
big question.
NASA doesn't claim...
The big question is
All
why?
right, well, a big question as to why NASA would want to cover the shape of the Earth.
Yeah, go on.
So money is the number one thing. If you ever look at NASA's budget,
What's
it's
NASA's
money.
budget?
So, but
what is NASA's budget?
I can't.
50 odd million a day, something like that. 50 million a day, something like that.
It's
52
I've looked into
million
it in the past. I don't.
Yeah,
it's,
52
it's
million.
a ridiculous amount.
But do you know that the US military budget is 1.9 billion a day?
And that's a really terrible thing.
Yeah. So don't
yeah.
you think it would be better then perhaps to be questioning that than the small pitiful amount NASA gets when they're trying to learn, trying to better humanity, trying to reach out?
I very much question that. And other people, the big potatoes, they definitely spent a lot more time talking about other topics like coronavirus. But I'm just not really focusing on that one.
No.
I really feel like this one is it's a totally different.
Do you have any idea of how many people work for NASA, and then how many people work for subcontractors of NASA, and how many other space agencies there are, like the European Space Agency, Japanese Space Agency? I forget which country it was just in the past few days.
I understand that.
So they would all have to be in on it. I mean, you think that the Russians, of course, are rather big in space as well. Boy, could they have embarrassed the Americans many times over the years by saying, "Ha, you're lying, it's actually flat. Here's a photo of it." So why are they all in on it as well? What have they got to gain?
Well, I definitely believe there's a lot of unison amongst the different countries of the world and everything, that they already are kind of, the people talk about the globalism and about that whole perspective, and they're like, oh, well, we're already living in a globalistic environment. They're all talking about, oh, it's something to happen in the future, but no, it's happening now. That's what the whole UN is about, is working in a globalistic environment.
But if I was Mr. NASA chief, I'd be saying, hey, give me 52 million a day so we can learn and I can show you all about the flat Earth. Why make up rubbish about it being a globe and then have... Do you know what I mean? Why would they do that? What's the advantage? And actually, just before you go into the answer or the discussion of that, Crafty Keeler's just super chatted €5 saying, flat earthers have more faith in governments than most people. They believe governments actually have the ability to be united over the ages on hiding the flat earth. Impossible, which is sort of pretty much echoing what I was just saying.
I think there's a lot more to it. So there's a lot of history that gets changed over time, and so that's kind of the propaganda thing, saying it was always this way, and that there were no skeptics all these other years in the past. And so a lot of that thing, there's a lot of sweeping under the rug when it comes to history.
One thing I was going to ask, this whole, I mean, when did it start? And when it started, why did it start?
Right,
you want to begin there, right?
We're getting into a lot of history here, and I can say with NASA. And now, one thing I've really been thinking a lot about is the whole moon landing thing was a Cold War kind of an issue, and so there's a lot of different departments that I haven't quite puzzle pieced together yet when it comes to the history and the grand scheme of things. But I just look at NASA and it's like, okay, if it wasn't the issue. Okay, there's other factors that it could be. And so one of the things I've thought about was if they just decided, okay, well, that's the mainstream belief that everyone's going with right now during the Cold War. And so we're just going to say it was a globe and say we went to the moon. And so that was the initial lie. And then after that, they just kept building lie upon lie upon lie, just feeding into trying to support that. We went to the moon so we can have this whole Cold War victory kind of a thing.
Yeah, but a Cold War victory, and I suppose in the space race, yes, the Americans won but it would have been so easy for the Russians to embarrass them, as I said earlier on, and call them out on it, and show why look, the great Satan America, they've just lied to everyone. No, they congratulated America, and they've eventually worked with America. He had joint missions, and of course, part of the ISS. Actually, that's a good point. The ISS. What do you think that is? Do you think that is a space station, or a station orbiting the Earth?
I just want to say that from what I was aware, the Russians really ignored the whole moon landing thing. It was like, didn't even make the front pages. It was like page 10 in their newspapers. You're like way in the back of the newspaper. It wasn't a big thing. They really just tried to ignore that whole fact, or the whole claim anyway.
What about when Russians put Yuri Gagarin up? He toured the world, including the States. He was fated. He was sent on a world tour. Yuri Gagarin, the first man in space, a Russian. We could have called them out on that.
We could have if we wanted to, but I think there's a lot of different things that go into this, and so I can't say I know the answer to everything in this matter. So all of this is just speculation here, and so
it isn't. Right. You can go out and look at the International Space Station. Have you ever looked at it? I've
seen a lot of videos. I think I've seen lights, and that's a big thing that people point at is the existence of satellites. Those disprove the flat Earth, and I actually do plan on doing an entire lesson. I haven't quite figured out which lesson I wanted to be, whether it's going to be 10 or 11. But I want to talk about satellites and about how satellites don't necessarily debunk the flat Earth.
Okay, Kyle, here is a friendly challenge for you to do for yourself if you're open. Okay, there's more than one, but the website I used is called Heavens Above. You can Google that, Heavens Above. You can put in your location. I think you can search your town, and it will tell you when and where different satellites, including the ISS, which is the easiest to see, when and where they're going to pass over you, and the brightness they're going to be. The larger the
I'm sure I've seen one. My neighbor, who's a major globe earther, he went and pointed one out to me one night.
Yes,
said, there's going to be a satellite passing over right now, and we actually.
But this is a challenge for you because I mean later on today, have a look at the website, because it might not be a pass over you for some time, and you want a pass where the magnitude is higher, i.e. a larger negative number, and because that could be a couple of days away. Put it in your diary. It tells you sort of how many degrees above the horizon it's going to appear and disappear, the direction it's coming from and going to. So you've read about that several days before. Then go out and look at it. Okay, you will be amazed, and the fact that they've predicted days in advance exactly where it is. To within a few seconds, that's...
that amazed me.
Sorry, do you think that would amaze you, or you don't think that would amaze you?
No.
It wouldn't. Why wouldn't it amaze you? How could they do that then?
Okay, if I say I'm going to go take a plane flight on this day at this time, and then I actually do it, it's kind of the same thing. Or someone else is telling me that they're going to take a plane flight and say, okay, it's going to be on this day at this time, and that's where I'm going to be. And then they show up. Why would I be amazed?
With a plane, you might know that the plane from I don't know, London to New York is going to pass. The flight path takes it overhead of me, but they can't.
So you can predict planes, and so
yes. But we know that plane, for instance, is taking off at 10 o'clock at night, and will roughly pass over me at about 20 past 10 or whatever the time is. But we're talking about every single time, depending on the weather being clear, that ISS is exactly where it's going to be. You can train a telescope ready on that point, exactly where it's going to be, exactly how long it will appear. It will wink out of existence. It will go dark before it reaches the horizon, because it's hit the Earth's shadow. It will tell you when it's going to hit the Earth's shadow.
I've got spoiler alert, because I really want to do a video on this. Maybe you've got a question, or maybe you can answer this for me, because this is a question I've been thinking about a lot lately.
Well, I will if I can, because I'm not the font of all knowledge, but I will if I can.
Okay, so with the Earth's shadow, right? We've got lunar eclipses, and I'm going to do a whole bunch about lunar eclipses, right? The moon turns red because it enters into the penumbra area, right?
Right.
Right, and that's why the globe earthers say the moon turns red. So when do we ever see the ISS turn red by entering into the Earth's penumbra?
Well, the ISS is a lot closer. The penumbra won't be much different than the umbra, the main shadow. By the time you get to the moon, the difference between the penumbra and the umbra in the middle is a lot more.
So the ISS is a lot closer than the moon, and so it's the amount of time it spends in the penumbra is much shorter.
In effect, yes. And if you actually watch the ISS, you'll see it's travelling very quickly across the sky. So it would not be in it for long.
Still,
and just think of the angle. The ISS is, I forget, 200 miles up, something like that. So the difference between the umbra and the penumbra is only a small amount. The penumbra, because, sorry, if I just finish, the umbra is a cone getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So by the time it gets to the moon, the difference between the umbra and the penumbra is a lot more.
So I'm curious why we don't see it blinking red a couple times a day here and everything,
Kyle,
even if it is just really short. Yes.
I sent you a graphic in your DMs.
Okay.
The scales aren't quite right. In fact, it would be even more severe because the Earth is further away, so the angles are closer. Can you see the penumbra area? You see how it
actually Spiderdaddy. Sorry, Spiderdaddy. Can you drop that link to me? Because what I'll do is I'll put it up on screen.
Yes.
If you could just drop that to me now, DM me, that'd be great.
So I see the Earth here, I see the umbra, and I see the penumbra.
Right.
Now, okay, if we have the ISS circling around the Earth here, we should see the ISS enter that penumbra area twice through every rotation.
Right.
So,
how far away do you think? Right. If we say the sun is okay, if we try and put the ISS to scale far away from this Earth, the sun isn't correct. In fact, it would be the angles would be even closer. But let's give them the benefit of the doubt. How far away is the ISS from the surface of the Earth?
In comparison to the moon?
I just mean, like, in this image, like, where would you place the ISS?
Really close. Well, it depends. Okay, so your picture here.
Really close to
I don't assume. Well, your picture here is hardly to scale. Would you?
Yes, it's not to scale, right? Okay, but move the sun, really far away because that's what it would be in a correct case, right?
Ideally, yeah, your ISS would be really close to the Earth. However, we see the same effect, supposedly.
How close could you describe it? How close it would be to the Earth?
Exactly how close? I don't.
And by the way, it's literally just come up on
screen. They claim it's in the ionosphere. They claim that the ISS is flying around in the ionosphere, and exactly how many miles away the ionosphere is above the Earth, I can't remember the number off the top of my head.
Well, the ISS is about 200, 220 miles above the surface of the Earth, I think.
Yeah, so it's much closer to the Earth than what globe earthers say the moon is. I understand that. Okay. At the same time, we can see the number of the Earth, right, in the sky. Can we not see that in the sky? That's not what Rayleigh scattering is about.
Just before you go on to that, though, do you want to comment on his distance, Spiderdaddy?
I mean, yeah, on this image, if we were to try and make the Earth the reference scale and put the ISS close to it, it would be like on the black line on the tangent, bit above that, like right next to it. So the area which you would consider as the penumbra, where it is, in quotation mark, red, the light.
That's all fine and dandy.
That is tiny. It's like it doesn't exist. The ISS just kind of passes. Even if it was a noticeable effect, the ISS passes through that instantly.
So, are you saying that you disagree with the claim of Rayleigh scattering in the atmosphere and why sunsets appear red?
No, but that's not what we're talking about.
You're talking about the
if we can see it,
the ISS isn't inside of the
atmosphere.
Earth. Like, it isn't in the area that creates this severe scattering effect.
To all intents and purposes, it's total vacuum there.
Okay, how far away do you... just like thinking about the atmosphere itself, okay? We're talking about Rayleigh scattering, okay? There's the moon. I understand the moon is really far away compared to the ISS by your beliefs there. But I'm talking about the the Rayleigh scattering that you see on clouds, okay? Clouds you think are a lot closer to the ISS, right? Or than the ISS is. Clouds are really close compared to the ISS.
Clouds a few thousand feet up.
Okay, and so if clouds turn red due to this whole thing, clouds are turning red due to Rayleigh scattering, shouldn't the ISS turn red also?
No. And
because you only see it at nighttime when you don't see that effect anymore.
And also, when you think about it...
If you're on the ISS, you wouldn't be able to look out the window and see it red?
No. The clouds turning red are at sunrise and sunset, aren't they? So the sun's light will have passed through a lot of atmosphere. The ISS is above the atmosphere, and its light is reflecting sort of pretty much straight down to you. It's not passing through, sort of almost skimming the Earth until such time as it was near the horizon, and by then it's already gone in. So
you don't believe the ISS is in the atmosphere?
Sorry, say again.
You don't believe the ISS is in the atmosphere?
If the ISS was in the atmosphere, it would be burning up.
At what point?
So you do not believe that you do not believe that the ISS is in the ionosphere?
You're talking about how high, but the point is the density of particles in the ionosphere is so low that the requirement for, scattering to happen because of, because of particles.
You're saying that the penumbra and Rayleigh scattering can affect the moon, but it can't affect...
Guy, I've just lost everyone. Sorry. My Discord has just crashed. Let me just go across. Hopefully,
which are really close.
Guys,
I'm seeing Rayleigh scattering affect the moon, which is really far away, but
Kyle,
it's not affecting the ISS in that sandwich.
Kyle, sorry everybody, I lost both of you just then. My Discord had to reload, so I do apologise. So you blacked out there for about 30 seconds. Okay.
I was talking about the sandwich. Okay, so we've got clouds, the Rayleigh scattering affecting the clouds, which are really close to the Earth. We see the Rayleigh scattering affecting the moon, which is really far away from the Earth. We've got the ISS in this magic zone between the clouds and the moon. It's not affecting the ISS.
But on that diagram, that I've lost the diagram now.
So in theory, you are correct. There would be a point, right? In theory, the ISS would pass through the penumbra of the Earth at some point.
Twice on every revolution.
Right.
Pass through twice on every revolution.
Right. What the point of me showing you the diagram was that the penumbra, that area tightens to a point, and the ISS is so close that it is in that area of the point where the period that it stays in the penumbra is incredibly short.
Okay.
So if you really, I don't know, perhaps it is possible to see the ISS have a slight period of where it has a little red peak in what it looks like. But in practice, you can't see that it's red because it doesn't pass through the penumbra for long enough.
And actually,
it's like a split second.
Talking about that,
so we can probably measure.
Kyle, that diagram. Yes, it's not to scale because we cannot draw things to scale. If you had it more to scale, yes, the sun would be disappeared off. That umbra would not look like it's getting narrower towards the right. It would look almost rectangular. The penumbra you wouldn't even see. Perhaps on the extreme right, it might be a pixel above the umbra. Do you see what I'm saying? This is greatly exaggerated just as a diagram. It's not the penumbra near the Earth does not appear as a great big triangle like that. Do you see what, yeah? So the difference between umbra and penumbra anywhere near the Earth is virtually nil. There is a difference, but it's virtually nil. It's only as you get further and further away that angle opens up further and further. And at the moon's distance, 250,000 miles away, then it's more substantial.
You're saying that the amount of penumbra that we see on the Earth is just teeny tiny. Right?
Yeah. Well, imagine.
That's what you're saying.
I'll tell you what.
We see very little amount of penumbra from our place on Earth.
Okay, think of this, Kyle. I'm not sure which city. Let's just say you live in Salt Lake City. I don't know. Let's just take that for an argument. Okay, you draw a line, totally straight line, to one end of Manhattan Island. Okay, then you draw another line from Salt Lake City to the other end of Manhattan Island. It is a triangle. But when you're anywhere near Salt Lake City, those lines are going to look like one line. They're so close together. It's only as you get a fair distance along your journey from Salt Lake City to Manhattan Island that the lines are starting to separate. Do you see what we're saying?
We're talking about perspective here.
No, it's not
perspective.
Well, it's just the angle is a lot shallower than that diagram. That is an exaggerated diagram just to show the umbra and penumbra. Otherwise, you couldn't get the word penumbra in there because it would be so close. So the time. Let's take that example of those two lines drawn from the centre of Salt Lake City to each end of Manhattan Island. Let's say you travelled 10 miles. You still couldn't tell the difference between those two lines. There is a difference, but it's too small to measure. So if you were stepping across from outside of those two lines across them, yes, you would go into the gap if there was a gap between the two lines, but it would be such a minuscule amount of time you wouldn't even notice it.
I understand that.
Okay, cool.
So we've got that space here of penumbra. Okay, and how you're saying that penumbra in that little tiny gap is extremely tiny. Okay, but we are way tinier than that gap is. We are way tinier than that gap is.
Yeah, but it depends where it is. At some point, it's going.
What you're describing as tiny is huge in comparison to us.
Well, at what distance? The closer you are to Earth, the less that gap is. At one point, it will only be, it will only be.
The size is all relative in comparison to what you're comparing it to.
Yeah, but also remember you're travelling at 17,000 miles an hour around the Earth, or more. So
if guys have 90 minutes to go around the Earth once.
So if let's say at the height of 200 miles, that penumbra could be, let's say, just for the sake of argument, a mile wide. I don't think it will come to a point where it's only inches and less. But let's say it's a mile wide that the ISS passes through. It's travelling at 17,000 miles an hour, so it'll be a fraction of a second or whatever.
Okay, so I've definitely seen certain sunsets, okay, where the entire sky looks pink and red, right?
Yes.
So that's the entire sky. So how
but
many miles
that's not.
entire...
If you're talking about rain scattering, that's not penumbra, not the penumbra itself. That's just the light from the sun travelling through so much atmosphere. Different coloured lights are scattered, bent like a rainbow.
Yeah,
gets bent.
Yeah, that's what I described in my video. That's how I describe it, and so I describe it that way. But I haven't really seen. So I talked about that in my infrared video. That was exactly how I described it. But we're talking penumbra here, and that. Believe. Okay, so I'm just looking at that. I'm still just trying to figure out.
Well, while you just have a think on that, I've had a super chat from Dora and Koo for €2 saying scale, the Flurf's worst nightmare. Okay,
Scale.
so scale.
Fine.
Yeah, basically scale is everything when you're talking about this, Kyle.
That's what I said. It's all about the relativity. And so we've got size has got to be compared to something. So you say small, but small compared to what? So I can look at my daughter who's like 2 feet tall, and I can look at her and say, oh, she's small. Compared to an ant, she's huge. So I don't really see why they're saying that it's a worst nightmare. It's,
but
I'm having issues with it.
But leaving aside, let's say the Earth has no atmosphere, okay? You would still get an umbra and penumbra. You do realise that. That's nothing to do with the atmosphere. I'm not talking about the colouring of clouds. I'm talking about the umbra and penumbra.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you would still get both. So
Yeah.
it's
I actually did that in one of my videos there. I talked about the light is not parallel. The light from the sun is not parallel. And I held up my hand and I showed you the penumbra coming off of my hand.
yeah, but that's not to do with the light of the sun being parallel. I mean, light rays from the sun do travel parallel, but the sun is so big that looking at that diagram, if you were stood, I know you couldn't be, but if you were stood on the top of that sun vertically and looking at the Earth, where you can just see over the Earth, that's where the penumbra will be. Then if you stood on the bottom of the sun, upside down, looking at the same point at the top of the Earth, do you see what I'm saying? It's different views, so that you get light coming from the sun, from all over the sun, from the top, slightly all the way around that circle. So the penumbra is where some light gets, but other light is shaded. The umbra is where no light can hit, because no matter which point of the sun you're on, that will always be hidden. So that's full shadow.
So I really make a big deal about this whole umbra penumbra conundrum kind of a thing, because it's solid proof for me that light from the sun is not parallel. And that's like the exact title and focus of an entire lesson I do here, is I point to the umbra and penumbra and antumbra. I get into that as well. And all of that proves that the light from the sun is not parallel.
No, it does. Oh, sorry, I thought I'd switch everything off there. No, it doesn't.
I mean, technically,
You're
of course,
pointing
the
to
light
it and
from
you're
the sun
telling me that
isn't
it's
parallel.
Yeah.
The thing is, we treat it as effectively parallel because the angles between two rays are so incredibly small because of the distance. Something that you could only tell
the
if you
penumbra on
moved
one side of the Earth and the penumbra on the other side of the Earth looks pretty big compared. That looks like the size of the
something
Earth.
you can only
but
tell if you move
that's
very
Doug-
extreme differences.
Actually,
like
guys,
distances.
I'm going to interrupt for a second for two things. One is to say I've got a super chat from Second Best Bob for £5. Mic drop. And I also I'm going to ask if you could just bear with me a moment. What I want to do is quickly say thanks to my amazing patrons. To all my patrons, including new patrons Jason Blackford, Colin Field, Scott Emmett O'Donnell, Irish Dublin, Bob Yake and Kiri Mack, and my latest patron, Brainery. Thank you all so very much. And we're back again. So yeah, let's carry on. You were just saying, Kyle.
That starts off really small when you're really close to the light touching the Earth. I'm still looking at that diagram that you showed me of the sun and the Earth.
Yes.
And so it starts off really small in the corner of the triangle.
Yep.
As it gets bigger as it moves away, and you can see at the edge of it on the far right here, you see the penumbra, the difference between the edge of the penumbra and the umbra. It gets to be about the size of the Earth itself right there. That's a huge variance.
Yeah, eventually, yeah. But we're talking about at moon distance. That's the sort of distances we're talking about. You know.
And so it's right there. It's still showing us that light from the sun is not parallel.
Kyle, I'll do you a deal.
Okay.
I'm looking at the diagram and I'm trying to figure it out. I'm pretty sure you could it's basic trig calculating calculating how large the angle, like what those angles actually are. That shouldn't be too much of a problem. So I'll message you like tomorrow or later, whatever. I'll message you when I've actually done that and figured it out. I was trying to do it right now, but it's something I'd have to like get out a pen and paper, and I don't have that lying here right now.
Okay, so you're talking about the angles that can come off of my hand when I hold my hand up, or are you talking about the angles from the Earth? And
no, in this diagram.
Oh, okay, so the angle in this diagram, you're talking about the exact angle of the penumbra and where it starts on the Earth and how it progresses.
I mean, it starts at the tangent, but yeah. Yeah.
Well, I've just uploaded another image, Kyle. It should come through to the screen shortly, and you'll be able to see it as well, Sugar Daddy. Yeah, sugar daddy. I'll get sugar. Oh, man. You know what I meant.
I'm
I think
surprised
what the-
Nathan never made that mistake.
Yeah. Well, listen. This is one for you in particular, Kyle. This is the Earth.
Good one.
This is the Earth and Moon to scale at the proper scaled distance. Now, can you see the problem?
I'm sorry, I missed it.
Hopefully, it could be coming up on the screen. Are you looking at the stream?
I'm on the YouTube channel right here. I'm
Okay.
looking at the live stream.
It should have an image now. A black bar with the Earth on the left and the Moon on the right. They are to scale.
Still waiting for it.
Okay. Hopefully, it will come up soon.
I'm in the States here, so there's
Yeah.
a bit of a delay here.
Has it come up for you yet,
Yeah.
Spiderdaddy? Yeah. Has it come up yet, Carl? Hopefully you'll see it shortly. Then, if you can see the cone of the shadow of the Earth would be reaching. I mean, that's not shadow what I've drawn on. It's just the black of the image coming back from the Earth to the right from the Sun, and the penumbra is just a tiny little bit wider at moon distance. Now, if you drew those as triangles, in fact, let's take the right-hand end. Can you see it yet, Kyle?
No, I've noticed that it went a
sorry,
little faster here.
Have you got the image?
You can send it to me in
Discord, yes. Okay.
Discord. That'll go a lot faster.
It certainly will. 1 second. Right.
I don't know why it's not showing.
And I don't know why I didn't think of doing that. Okay. It's there for you now. So if you can tell me when you've got it open.
I see that.
Right.
The scale here.
Now, let's assume that at the right-hand end of the black rectangle, let's assume that that's the width of the penumbra. Okay?
Uh-huh.
So if you take the top and bottom corners of that black rectangle on the right and draw them backwards to the Earth so that they just touch the top and bottom of the Earth. Okay?
Uh-huh.
Do you see what we're talking about? By angles, it's virtually straight. The shadow, if that was the shadow at the right-hand end, is only just a tiny bit wider than the Earth. So if those were triangles, you can see the angles are virtually impossible to see at Earth end. And when you've got the ISS orbiting the Earth so small that in fact you couldn't even you couldn't see it away from the Earth because it's so close on that scale, it's going to pass through the very, very end of that triangle in no time at all.
That's interesting. Yeah, I can see what you're talking about here when it comes to how it looks just about parallel in this image here that you're sharing with me.
Yeah,
I can see that.
Cool.
Now, when in the other image, it does not look parallel at all. It looks completely...
No, that was just a diagram to illustrate... That was just no more than an out-of-scale diagram to illustrate the fact that with a sun at that scale, it would throw an umbra and penumbra
as a big
like
X on the inside of it, and that's the X that I'm really curious about, the angles on the inside of that X between the sun and the Earth there. Ones that, I guess, the greater than or less than signs, the one that's facing the Earth, that's the angle that I'm really curious about as to just what that angle is.
Right.
I don't know if I'm being specific enough for you to understand.
It's going to be tiny. Yeah,
as said, I'm going to try and do the calculation.
Looking at Spiderdaddy's image here with the X and the penumbra and umbra whole diagram. Okay, you can see a very clear X on the inside of that diagram, and if you look, there's the
you mean the dotted line? You talk about the dotted line angle. Let me get that back up again so people can see it. Just bear with me a second. Right, so that should be coming back to the screen. So you've got the X of the dotted lines in between the sun and the Earth. Yes. Okay, carry on.
So we've got the X there, and we've got the angle that is facing towards the Earth. Does that make sense? That's
right.
X,
the same angle.
The right side of the X.
Yep.
So that's the angle that I'm really curious about.
Yeah.
And
They're both
that's
the
the
same
one
angle.
that says that's the angle of saying the light is not parallel.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, but when you stretch this, if you move that sun excuse me, if you
you're
had the
going back to your
sun,
diagram before. The one
yeah,
that you
if you
sent
had
me
the
of
sun
when
and
the
the
sun
earth,
is super far away.
the sun and the earth to scale, that x would be squished down flatter and flatter and flatter. So those angles are virtually nil. I mean, there is an
Well, that
angle,
doesn't
but
mean that it doesn't mean the angle it doesn't exist.
no,
It's still
but
there, and so
it's
long as that angle
extremely tiny.
exists, so long as that angle exists, we can't say it's literally parallel. And that I understand that that's really the nitpickiness of the whole argument is just saying it is parallel or it isn't. And so I understand that it's really a tiny hair compared of pointing at.
Yes, in theory, the sun's rays hitting us are not all parallel. In practice, they are basically parallel, which you can prove from the fact that if you put two objects next to each other, the shadows coming off from them are going in the same direction.
But if they are
That's all that says.
if they are so parallel, I don't see why I'd be able to get all this penumbra coming off my hand when I raise it up in the air.
That's the point. Is that penumbra doesn't appear because the rays from the sun are producing that. I mean, if that was the case, the sun would be, so like. If you look at the scale of that, your shadow like disappears quickly, and you could calculate that the sun would have to be massive, and which it isn't. Like you can't see how big it is in the sky for it to produce that effect. That's happening because the light from the atmosphere, the general surrounding, is diffusing that strong shadow.
Okay, so your argument is that it's not penumbra, it's diffusion.
Yeah, it's just the shadow becomes unclear.
Okay, so when I raise my hand up in the air and I point and see that blurriness off the side of my shadow, you're saying that's diffusion, it's not penumbra.
I mean, yeah, to a certain extent, yeah.
I think we are talking about umbra and penumbra there. I remember the sun, the size of the sun, and with the angles. I'm trying to think of an example, but if you had a bar light, it's hard to explain, isn't it? Might have to do more videos about this. But I think your problem is with your query about the ISS appearing reddish for a while as it passes through the penumbra is it's going very, very fast, and it would pass through any level of a penumbra in moments.
Okay, so I would expect to see the ISS turn red for the entire amount of time I see the sky looking red above me. And so
that's different.
Because the ISS is somewhere else than you are.
Yes.
You see the sky red because of your position. The ISS's light it has traveled from somewhere else. The light that you see from the ISS is the light that reached the ISS and then was reflected from the ISS to you, which means it took a different path through the atmosphere.
Yes, the red you see in the clouds has gone horizontally, if you like, through a vast amount of atmosphere before it hits the clouds, and it's scattered, and it's the red.
So when the ISS is directly above me, it's missing all of that atmosphere that it's turning red.
Precisely.
It's turning red.
Think of it
unless it enters the theoretical area of the penumbra, where it should technically, turn slightly red for a bit. But of course, that's something that it's such a short, brief moment. Where I'm sure if you pointed, if you actually get the spectrometer out and you point it at the ISS and you try and figure out what its exact color is, you might see a redshift. I don't know. It might be that.
That's a really good question. I would love to get into is exactly how long would the ISS be passing through that penumbra?
Well, you could work it out with a whole bunch of maths. But just with the point of clouds versus this, Kyle, taking that diagram, let's go out of scale for the ISS. Let's put it, a couple of millimeters above the Earth. That's way out of scale. So the light that you see when you see the ISS in the sky has come from the sun, hit the ISS, and virtually bounce down at 90 degrees ish, whereas the light that's lighting the cloud has come straight from the sun through the atmosphere. Because it's going through a lot of atmosphere, it's getting scattered, so different colours of light are getting through until you're left with mainly red. It's a different thing.
So, okay, yeah.
And I did have another super chat, Kyle, from Second Best Bob, who super chatted me £5 saying, "Mr. Sensible, I love that you can cope with the flat Earth silly without getting angry and insulting." And he blew me a kiss.
I think you're doing very well. I think you're doing extremely well.
Well, I hope you feel that I kept up to my promise, Kyle.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I feel really comfortable here and everything,
Good.
and I've really enjoyed this whole conversation here. So, yeah, if we were to do this again in the future, I'd be very comfortable with that whole idea.
Excellent. Wow, this has got very interesting. So, okay, we covered umbras and penumbras, but I still don't think I've got an answer from you, really, Kyle, in that what you think the ISS might be.
Okay. So a lot of people point at the ISS and say, "Oh, well, the ISS is there, therefore the Earth is a globe," and they kind of make that whole argument. And as far as I'm aware, ISS could exist on a flat Earth.
Right. I think it would need some explaining as to how.
Yeah, there's a lot of explaining as to how, but I think it could exist on a flat Earth. And so
but like
you can point to the ISS and say it's there. And
so, what is the ISS on a flat Earth?
Well,
I think Kyle's saying
Yeah,
it would still be a manned space station. Would you be saying? Yeah. Okay. But then, how would it stay up there and not fall down?
And there's a lot of different questions that would go into that whole line of thought, and I'm for exploring those different options. And so we understand that there's the magnetosphere. What does the magnetosphere do? And so there's a lot of different areas of study that I would love to open up and really get into the details. How does the magnetosphere affect the different objects that are inside of it? Does it make it does it affect the way it falls? Can we throw something up into the magnetosphere and expect it to float around? We've done that. We've got a lot of experiments of having different objects being able to float due to magnetic fields and occurrences. So is that possible with an object like the ISS?
No. Imagine the strength of magnetic field that would have to be holding it up.
There's a lot of things about magnetic fields that I can't say I fully understand, and there's a lot of different realms of area that are yet to be explored in the
Earth's magnetic field at one of the strongest points that we have for Earth's magnetic fields. The strength of magnetic field depends on how far away you are from the source. So if we're
down here on the ground, there's down here on the ground.
No, that's how magnets. That's how magnets work.
And so
they always work like that.
And exactly the firmament itself, what kind of magnetic field does it have? I understand all things are magnetic. I remember there's a really interesting video about watching a piece of wood on water, and you can push this wood around with a magnet, showing that the wood itself is magnetic. It's
magnetic wood. Diamagnetic.
It's a really fascinating observation. And so if you can push wood around with a magnetic or with a magnet, I wonder what else. Like I said, there's a lot of different things that I'm still very novice about, and I'm really open to exploring and trying to figure things out. And if we can do that with a piece of wood and find out how to make wood float in the air, just using magnetic fields themselves.
If you could do that,
I'd like to learn more about that.
If you could do that, I suspect you'd be up for a Nobel Prize making wood float through magnets.
And there's a lot of other things too that I really enjoy learning about, like ancient archaeology, and people are talking about being able to move large pieces of blocks, large rocks using sound. They can just lift up this entire big block using sound. And
so who could do that? I think we're getting a bit off topics I know anything about, but
these are just interesting things I've heard about, and I would like to investigate more fully in the future. And
hearsay.
Yeah, there's a lot of hearsay involved in there. I haven't tested it myself yet or anything like that, but it's definitely got my attention. And there's a lot of science out there that is not open to the public. You just point at Area 51 over here in the States, and there's a lot of secrecy involved. And
Well,
I'm all about government transparency.
Conspiracy or protecting military secrets, things like the Blackbird's spy plane. They didn't want everyone, including Russians, to know about it for as long as they possibly could keep it secret. Now it is known, and no doubt they're 2, 3, 4 generations on from that with more and more advanced technology. But you're not going to want your enemies to know about it, so you keep it secret. You stop people going in there.
Until
it's nothing
you're finished
more than that.
with it.
Until it's out of date.
So there's a lot of unidentified flying objects out there, I guess you could say, and so there's a lot of things about the ISS, a lot of technology that could exist that I just don't know about because it's a military secret. And
Right. So here's another good one for the ISS. You can measure the parallax of the ISS, and you can measure the fact that it's not a plane in the sky. You can measure how far away it is by observing it from two positions.
Assuming straight lines.
No, well, I mean, you're looking at it,
Okay.
so it's a straight line.
You can look at a lot of things and not be looking at a straight line. It just looks like a straight line. And so we got to remember, we see the whole ISS rise up into the sky and then set, just like we see the sun and just like we see the stars.
Actually,
my whole understanding.
You never see. Carl, you never see the ISS rising from horizon going right across to horizon.
Yeah.
You don't see that? You don't see it go up over your head?
You see it go up over your head
at a certain angle.
I've got a video which I did with my phone of the ISS. It started, I don't know, about 15 degrees above the horizon and finished about 15 degrees above the other horizon. That was an extremely long viewing. Normally, it will get sort of, I don't know, from 15 degrees above the horizon, if you're lucky, to, I don't know, 40 degrees above the other horizon before it goes in the Earth's shadow. It never goes from horizon to horizon because it's not lit itself, it's reflection of the sun.
I got that.
Yeah, so it moves.
My point is the whole refraction thing. The whole reason why it appears to rise and set is because of refraction, and so that would affect the way we view that as well. And with it being refracted, it's not a straight line.
Okay, but you can, if you do the parallax calculations for it, they match up exactly with the correct numbers for it, with where it should be.
Yeah. So, so I understand there's a lot of things that go into. Sorry, I just want to say this real quick. I understand there's a lot of things that go into the refraction thing about how there's the weather changes, and so therefore our view of it should change, and that does happen. But there's also a lot of consistencies within the weather, such as the densities of the air. There's a lot of consistencies, and so we can't. So there's realms of variance and there's realms of consistency both within the weather. Does that make sense?
Well, I know what you're saying, but within parameters, but it's always varying.
Yes.
And yet, looking at that website, that Heavens Above website that I really, really would like you to have a look at and have a look at predicted ISS, that ISS will follow an exact path. It appears to me at a certain time, someone further across the country, it will appear slightly later. But the refraction, any level of refraction is not enough to change where it's expected to be and the path it's going to take and the time it's going to go into the Earth's shadow. So refraction is not having any great effect.
On the ISS?
On the ISS, yes.
Yeah, I really want to do a whole lesson, a series of different parts that just talk about the ISS and different satellites and different observations. Because there's a really good video I watched a while ago of someone looking out of the windows on the ISS, and they looked at the moon, and the moon had like a really weird shape on it, and you could very easily see that the moon was being obscured from their view on the ISS. I thought that was so fascinating and very worth sharing.
Well, what I'd say is if you're going to do a video on the ISS and satellites, and I'd be very interested to see it, I think it's beholden on you to actually do as I suggest, go to one of those prediction websites and then view it. Ideally, film it. I filmed it just with a phone camera, and then you can include that in it, whatever your explanation is. But I think that would be only fair and honest to actually do that. Good. Okay, thank you. I look forward to seeing that.
I don't want. Yeah, we take observations, and we need to take each of our own observations and the observations of others and bring them into account. And I think that'd be a very important thing to do.
Okay, well, that would be great to see. That really would.
I've got I call it my mind map. Over the years of different debates and conversations with other people, I've made this entire giant mind map of each of my conversations, and so I could see where they went. Because when you're having a conversation online with different people on Facebook or anywhere else, you have conversations end up branching out and going in all kinds of different directions, and sometimes forget about different points that were made and going in other directions. And so I made this giant mind map to keep track of each of the different points, and so nothing was lost. It was all one board. It's a really cool thing, and I never ever want to do a debate without that kind of understanding. And so nothing gets forgotten. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Or kind of, you don't have to scroll way up to see, oh, what was that point you made way back there? But every point is diagrammed out, and so you can see, okay, this is the point I made, and this was the rebuttal to that point, and this was the support to that point. And that way I could kind of build a foundation of all of the different supports that are holding one claim up, and all of the different supports that are holding the rebuttal up. And that way I can take all of the different observations into account.
Okay. Well, I missed, I'm afraid, 2 super chats. Second best Bob super chatted £5, and I can only use the little thing. It's a chicken. I'm not quite sure that I don't really get these little stickers, but thanks for that, second best Bob. And Neil Sullivan super chatted £3, saying thanks for a nice show. Appreciated it here in Leicester. Well, Neil, thank you very much for watching, and I appreciate the super chat. Thank you. Well, we are now here in the UK at 5 past midnight. And I have really enjoyed this, Kyle. As predicted, yeah. I think well, actually I was wrong. I said I don't think I'm going to agree with you on anything, but I did. I agreed with you about Nathan Oakley. He's nothing but a little. But aside from that, we probably didn't agree.
I can say that.
He's not really a flat earther.
No, he's probably a Poe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap up the stream now. Kyle and Spider, what I'll do in a moment is I'll drop you both back in the live waiting room if you want to stay and chat for a while. There's a whole bunch of people in there who I'm sure have got questions. It's just open for any discussion. But I'll say to you, Spider, first, because I'll drop you in first. Do you have any last words to say? You know, any final thoughts on what's been discussed, or anything you want to push or recommend, channels or anything like that?
I've really enjoyed having you. Thank you for inviting me and letting me say my piece. It's been nice to be. I feel good being represented, being able to represent myself.
Okay, thank you, Carl. Thank you. You're very welcome, and it's been pleasant having you as a guest. We've been able to talk, discuss, disagree, without anyone getting upset or nasty.
That's been it's a very significant achievement right there.
Not on my channel, because I do it regularly, but I appreciate what you're saying. I do. And yeah, I definitely want to keep in touch. Let's organise a formal debate. I've actually got from where are we? From 25th of August. So from this Saturday. drop stuff. I've got 2 weeks off work, so if there's any chance of doing it sometime over the next 2 weeks, that would be great. But perhaps we can catch up in chat. That would be
Send me an
brilliant.
email and tell me about what points you want to talk about, and I'll do my best in answering questions and sharing the support I have behind each thing.
And then maybe we could do it on a neutral channel. So, I mean, I hope I would treat you fairly, but a neutral channel with a moderator, so that we know, we each get a fair time and so on. But we can discuss the details of that. That would be brilliant. All right, well, listen, Kyle.
Yeah, I have. If you got something to teach me, I am more than open into learning. Yeah, I fully accept that I might lose it, and I'm okay with that.
That's cool. I mean, what more can anyone ask for? Being open to learning. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, Kyle. It's been a pleasure. I shall drop you in the live waiting room, and I'll catch you there in a few minutes. All right.
Okay. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Welcome. Thank you, Kyle. And Spiders.
Yes.
So I hope you've enjoyed. I realise you've been on here for a shorter time.
Of course.
But I hope you've enjoyed what we've had and enjoyed the conversation.
Quite fun.
Yeah. And I would love to have you on the channel again sometime. And
sure thing.
Yeah. Good. Excellent.
I just want to point out in the end that the ISS thing, you can do this with your phone. You can like get a little tripod, put your phone on it. And if you follow the maths, there's some guides on the internet. You can measure the actual speed of the ISS just from its angular size in the sky. It's quite cool.
Excellent. Maybe you should do a video about it.
There are quite a few already.
Oh, are there? Okay. Lovely. Well, listen, it has been a pleasure as well having you on here, Spider. Whether it's Spiderdaddy or Sugar Daddy. I'm sorry about that. I don't know why, but there we go. Okay, listen, cool. Thank you very much, and I'll just drop you over in the live waiting room as well. Kyle is still there as well as a whole bunch of people, okay? And I'll catch you there in a few minutes after I've wrapped the stream up, all right?
Sure thing.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, and good night. Well, I really, really enjoyed that tonight, everyone. But it's been absolutely brilliant. I thought it was a great discussion. Yes, I didn't agree with Carl over everything or much at all, other than Nathan Oakley. But I thought it was fun. I haven't got a link to his channel. The link to his channel is in the stream a couple of times. Oh, and it's in the description. So do feel free to go and check out Carl's channel. By all means, argue against what he's saying. I would ask you, since you've come from my channel, I'd ask you to try and keep it as polite as you can. But it's his channel, and it's up to him, of course, what comments he keeps and doesn't allow. So thank you very much. I appreciate every single comment, every single super chat. I appreciate my patience. My patience and my patrons, every single one. And I look forward to seeing you all soon. I think I've lost track of the days. I'm not sure. Was it Thursday night? Just going to Friday. I think my next video is out Saturday night. So I'm skipping tomorrow. I think that's the way it's going. So I'll see you all soon. And remember, it's 9 days to the secret project reveal. That will be the live premiere on the 31st of July. I think I got muddled up with months earlier on. 31st of July, 9 p.m. BST, followed by a live stream. And I hope to see you all then. Anyway, until next time, take care, stay sensible, and let's see if I can do this without screwing it up. Goodbye.